record on the computer. Thank you. Okay. All right. We are recording now. So welcome everyone. This is Mellow Money. Do what you love and get paid with your instructors, me, Arden Lee, and my friend and trusted money coach, Chris Hollywood, the wealth architect.
Hi guys.
All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and I kind of want to just say a couple words on how to get the most out of this class first. We're going to have, the first part is going to be a 2-hour workshop. I asked Chris to join me in teaching this workshop, essentially to check me on what I'm teaching. Basically, what I did is I've spent some time in the business coaching industry sifting through a lot of the tactics that they teach there and feeling into them and feeling out what worked for me as a person of integrity, and especially as an autistic person who can't lie and especially can't lie on the phone and especially can't lie on the phone and take someone's money at the same time without being really awkward and stumbling over their words a lot. So I had to figure out, I'm like, all right, how do I build a business? Essentially, I know that there are people who want to pay me for what I do, right? And I know that there's, oh, let me see, Carmen's also introducing. Hi, Carmen. And Carmen, I know from the Repatterning Project. So great to see you here. Can only stay for an hour and I'll watch the rest on replay. No worries. Help to build a school of consent and looking to bring more passive income streams into my world. Love it. Awesome. We can definitely help you out there. So putting all this information together, basically, I wanted to invite Chris because, first of all, I want all of you guys to be able to meet him too. Chris has also been a money coach for me in the past. And I think, like, was it 2018? I was like, all right, it's time for me to like put my money together like an adult and stop like keep crumbling bills up and shoving them in my pocket like I'm a 13-year-old at the mall. So, but it was, you know, I'm primarily going to be teaching most of the curriculum. I put the slide deck together, and then basically after every section, I'm going to have Chris check me. I'm basically going to say like, hey, did I say anything that was bullshit? Or like, and also, did I say anything that was like good, but maybe you have even more insight as a money coach into why that was a good thing that I said. So we're going to go ahead and proceed that way. I tend, as an instructor, I tend to talk a lot and I tend to talk pretty fast. That's why there's a replay. My sort of style, I'm a Gemini rising and it is Gemini season. My sort of style of teaching is that I always think that I'm like, how am I going to fill up 2-3 hours of class time? I guess I better have a lot of material. And then I'm like, well, I have some material. I guess like that, hopefully that'll be enough. Maybe I can stretch it out. And then the minute I write out the some material that I have, I'm like, oh, wow, this is way more than I thought it was. And I'm probably going to have to blast through this whole thing in order to fit it into 2 hours. So I'm sorry, you're welcome. There is going to be a lot of information in this webinar, and that's why I do encourage you to watch the replay. So there will be some points that I get to where normally, like, or the way that I was taught them, it would be like, oh, we're going to take 10 minutes and do this as a writing exercise, and then you turn to your partner. But I've distilled all of these exercises into what is going to be a 2-hour workshop with an hour-long Q&A. So because of that, there may be some places that I'm going to be like, hey, go back and do this later, watch this again, and actually fill out these questions, and then sit with that and see what comes up for you. So, but I'm not going to leave a whole lot of time for that, because I think the way that I can best be of service to everyone today is by covering as much material as possible. So with that said, and during the 2-hour portion of the workshop, until we get to about 2 p.m., please do feel free to throw questions and comments in the chat. I will be keeping an eye on the chat. And if there's anything that I say that you're like, oh, can you clarify that? Can you back up for a little bit? Please do that. I'm going to wait before bringing people on camera until we get to the Q&A part. So if there's like a long thing that you're like, hey, I want to kind of dive deep on this, I feel like I need to get on camera, on mic to talk about it, that is totally cool. But we'll do that during the Q&A portion. Of course, both me and Chris will be available to answer your questions. And also, this is being recorded, and obviously you're all going to get the replay of this, but this will also end up going on my website. So if you do ask a question during the Q&A, I absolutely encourage you to ask whatever your questions you're comfortable with. But if you're like, going to come out with like, a story of someone that you murdered and hid in your closet, or, coming out with your sexuality in a way that you've never said to anyone before, this will be on my website for download. So just in terms of consent, make sure you're okay with people in the future purchasing this recording and hearing what you share. So that is the framework for our container. I am going to go ahead and open up my slide presentation, share my screen. There we are.
All right.
And whenever I do this, I always have to make a quick adjustment so that I can get the chat and the participants back on screen as well. So give me just one moment while I do that. All right, here is the chat. Making sure that I can see everyone's comments coming in. And I'm going to open the participants window just in case we have any stragglers and I have to let anybody into the room. All right, that should just about do it. Am I all caught up on the chat? Sydney made an introduction. Sydney says, hey, I'm a full-time trauma therapist wanting to scale my business, build internationally used programs, scale a ton of other people's businesses, but I keep getting stuck, cycles of too much work and not enough money. All right, good. We have a solution for this. I have 3 to 5 referrals per day, but I haven't figured out a way to make it sustainable. We will definitely help that. My supervisor takes a 40% cut and I work as an independent contractor until I'm fully licensed next year. Okay, excellent. So you have things in the pipeline. I want to find a way for my work to work for me. Wonderful. All right. We got a lot of cool
stuff. That sounds like a high quality problem. I like that one.
Yeah, right.
Those are what we call high quality problems.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep. All right, so everyone, welcome to Mellow Money, Do What You Love and Get Paid, a workshop by Arden Lee and Chris Hollywood. So here are your instructors. I'll read our bios really quickly. Arden Lee is the creator of the Repatterning Project, a course in understanding the human operating system for the purpose of creating sustainable patterns. And at some point, she had to figure out how to make money off of that, and that's why she's here and teaching today. Her certifications are in NLP and timeline therapy. She's also the front woman of Arden and the Wolves and Prosper Team. Because I'm into bands, naturally, I expect everybody who's in this class here to log on to Spotify later on in the day or in the weekend, whenever you have time, and check out my 2 music projects, because I can't possibly let this class go without promoting them. Chris, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. As you can see there, I'm the founder of The Wealth Architect. I've been in banking for about 20 years, worked as a big ticket corporate investment banker for 10 years, then moved into the financial advisory service, helping people with, stocks, bonds, and the typical sort of thing. And then about 5-6 years ago, I started my business, The Wealth Architect, and became a money coach as opposed to a financial advisor. All the sort of technical licenses, I've had that training, but I found that most of the financial industry, again, having been in it and at the highest levels, is designed for maintaining wealth and managing wealth that already exists, which means it generally only serves, the top 1 to 5% of the population. And so I was like, I'd be a lot more helpful and create a legacy for myself and make the world a better place if the other 95% and apply that. So again, I worked as a fractional CFO for people who have, small businesses, but primarily focus most of my time on coaching the rest of the 95% and how to get wealth and create wealth from scratch. And so, yeah, that's me.
I love that you were in that world of like super high powered investment banking. And somehow, like, it's a testament to your character that you're
Oh,
still a
thanks so
really
much.
awesome person.
Oh, thanks, Heather. Thanks, man. Thanks.
you
Appreciate it.
you didn't go the 1% route, and I love you for that.
Thanks.
When
Thank
someone
you.
has that option and they don't do it, that's how you know they're the real MVP. All right, so section 1, the first thing I'm going to do is I want to break everyone's brain on money. We're going to start off by busting through some limiting paradigms, because sometimes what we need in order to move forward is basically an idea of how we could potentially make a whole bunch of money in potentially a short amount of time, right? We don't necessarily have to immediately launch into making that short amount of time, but we want to start wrapping our heads around what that's going to look like for us in the future, because we want to be able to move toward feeling empowered to be able to do something like this. So I'm going to start off with what the business coaching industry will teach you. Hang on, I just want to make sure everyone's all right. Okay, cool. It's getting a little bit of feedback there for a moment, but it went away. And then I'm going to explain who it works for, why it doesn't work for most people, and what lessons you can learn from it that will actually work for you instead. One of the things that the business coaching industry started asking that I was like, yeah, I have no idea how I would do that, is there were some instructors in the business coaching industry basically saying, all right, how do you make $30,000 in 1 month? I was like, wow, that sounds really difficult. That sounds like, gee, $30,000. Like, it sounds like there's going to be a lot of numbers and a lot of like number crunching involved and a lot of decimal points and a lot of like, I'm just seeing in my head like a gazillion receipts adding up, all with like, you know, like random, you know, $389.17, like all these like numbers, you know, in my brain, that's what I'm picturing. And the thing that this one instructor taught me next changed the way that I thought about money in a way that felt so obvious that I was kicking myself afterwards. I was like, why? I was like, I was a pretty good student at math. Like, I wasn't that bad at math. Like, I was decent. I can do math at this level. Why did I not think of this? So for anyone who doesn't know how they would make $30,000 in 1 month, I'm going to explain it to you. It's going to be extremely clear. This is how you make $30,000 in 1 month. You could sell a $100 package to 300 people, right? This class that I made today, if I had a platform that was so big, or a mailing list that was so big that I had 300 people sign up, done. 1 afternoon, a couple marketing posts, and I have made $30,000 in a single month. I've actually made it, I guess, in a single day, if you don't count the promotion. You could sell, if you don't have 300 people that you feel like are going to buy your product, well, then you can sell a $500 package to 60 people. You could sell a $1,000 package to 30 people, right? Those courses that are like $9.97 to show up. I know a guy who has a pretty strong following on Instagram and Twitter, who writes these very like pithy tweets about self-improvement. Most of his Instagrams are also just pictures of his tweets. And he's amassed about like 70,000 followers, I think, at the time that he started promoting his course. And he got 30 people out of his following to sign up for his $997 course. That was 30K in roughly about a month. You could double that price and you could sell a $2,000 package to 15 people. You can see where I'm going with this now. You could sell a $5,000 package to 6 people. You could sell a $10,000 package to 3 people. You could sell a $15,000 package to 2 people. Or, this instructor says, he says, my personal favorite, you can just sell one $30,000 package to 1 person. Wow, this is incredible. Amazingly enough, I actually had never thought of this before. Genius. Now you're totally ready to be a service provider, right? That's apparently all it takes. It's just being able to do a little bit of simple math. And now you know how to make 30K in 30 days, right? Amazing. Great job. Everyone feel ready now? All right, we're done. That's it.
Can I got a quick money nerd fact, which it's
Yeah.
interesting to me to see that is that 30K mark is actually very significant. Like because you could say that about $1 million or $10,000, any other number, but 30 is pretty much the median income for a person in America.
Oh, wow. No kidding. So if you get to
Yeah.
that
So
point, you're
again,
making the
most
median.
people, yeah, most people will relate to that money. It's like, that's what I make in a year, right? And so that relates. It's like, wow, you're telling me I could work for a month and make the whole. So it hits just so look, random math nerd fact for everyone.
I love that, right? And I love that what part of what we're doing in this class is about making oops. I'm trying to see how I'm like figuring out how I can pin my video at the same time. Let me see. Hang on. I feel like we're all right. I'm going to do that for now because it's not switching back and forth. Yeah, I love that we're making this accessible, basically, because this is stuff that a lot of this information is stuff that a lot of business coaches out there will charge you $30,000 to start with just to give you this information. And they don't end up helping you actually become a good business owner in many ways. So a lot of them anyway. I do want to give a shout out to my business coach, Adam Lyons, who is also a good friend of Chris Hollywood's. They live together now, not together. They're next door neighbors, right? Chris is like, yeah. Learning from Adam was amazing because the same thing, like I just said with Chris, basically, where I look for someone that I can trust first and foremost before looking for, what they've done with their lives. And working with Adam was amazing because throughout the pandemic, there was that awful crisis that happened in Texas recently when Texas was really not prepared for that big old snowstorm that happened. And rather than Adam going and bragging about, oh, I'm using all of my wealth that I've accumulated with, the business knowledge that I know and the business coaching that I teach to go and party at some music festival or work in Thailand for 2 years or whatever. Adam literally took in 4 families into his home and provided for everyone because that's like his values around making money. Wait, Chris, I can see you laughing, but I can't hear what you're saying.
Sorry, I was like, yeah, no, that's very true. We live on a 44-acre ranch together, and Adam essentially just cooked for people, and I would drive I have a New York SUV, 4-wheel drive. So I would drive into central Austin and save people who were freezing and had no food and brought them out. So yeah, no, that's exactly what we did. I can verify that I was there.
Yeah. And working with Adam was incredible because basically what he teaches people we'll go through that. I just want to make it clear that I'm shit talking some business coaches in this module, but I'm really grateful for what I learned from Adam, and it was his help that basically, once I was able to see everything in the way that he taught the system, it was his knowledge that helped me put a lot of this together. And if you end up joining the Repatterning Project at any point, there is a bonus module from Adam Lyons that is included in that, where he basically gives the start to business coaching that he gave to me and that he gives to a lot of his own clients. So he is a business coach that I absolutely endorse. In the rest of the industry, however, or a lot of the industry that I came across, which I knew Adam from the days that he and I were both dating coaches. So I didn't know him from a lot of the other sectors of the business coaching industry. So I just want to make that clear. So, all right. So the business coaching industry will tell you a few things. First, they will say start premium, stay premium. What does that mean? That basically means, all right, you see that chart that was on that previous slide where you immediately charge $30,000 to one person. They're like, yeah, and normally you would start at a rate that you feel comfortable with. And then, over time, as you gain more experience, you'll just, you'll raise your rates over time. But we believe that if you're going to get to that point where your rate is that high anyway, why don't you just start there? Like just cut out the bullshit and just start premium, stay premium. Doesn't matter how long you've been in the industry, just charge $30,000 today. That's how you make $30,000. This is why the business coaching industry imploded on itself. So this means charging the same rate as a person who has the commensurate experience of being in the industry for a long time. Gee, I wonder what could go wrong. I have some stories about that, in fact. Take inspired action. This is another thing that the business coaching industry will throw around a lot. This means they want you to sign up for their super expensive program right now because they put you in a high of emotional conversion. They got you into their event. They got everyone super pumped up with a whole bunch of breath work. They got everyone, singing along to all the big, this girl is on fire and baby, you're a firework that they're playing on their breaks. They're having their people go up to the microphone and give these tearful testimonials. You can change your life. And then they're like, oh my God, maybe I can change my life too if I throw down my credit card and give this person $30,000. So that's what they mean by take inspired action. Gee, I wonder why they are encouraging you to do that. And they will say, generate leads wherever you go. This actually means embodying your work so you can always connect with potential clients. And we will talk about that in this lecture. But what they think it means is annoying everyone in the DMs, right? They'll literally say, if someone likes your Facebook post, they'll say, reach out to that person. They reached out to your post because they secretly want to spend money on you. And if you say, hey, I noticed you liked my post. What'd you like about it? Are you thinking of becoming a client? Is this a challenge that's been a problem for you? And then immediately it's like, oh my God, people get sick on like, oh my God, everyone on Facebook, it's like, you can't even, I once sent an invite to a guy who had liked my page. I sent him an invite to like my cat group, right? I teach a course called the Repatterning Project. And I have a group that is a free group called the Repatterning Parlor where people can like kind of just hang out and like, just check out, some of my videos and stuff for free. And then I made up a funny group by my cat called the Repatterning Project, which is run by my cat, Edgar Allan Poe. So I sent I was just sending some invites to this cat group, and this guy basically DMs me basically like, unless you're willing to listen to my life story right now at 11 p.m. on a Sunday, you must be marketing to me, and therefore I'm going to block you and talk about what a horrible person you are. Everyone is on edge because so many people have been affected by the business coaching industry being like, just annoy people in their DMs, because you have to annoy at least 50 people, but that 51st person is going to say yes to your $30,000 package. And then you've made your $30,000, but you've become that really super annoying person that 50 other people don't want to talk to and deal with. And chances are the 51st person isn't even an aligned client. They just gave in to you because you were pushy. So don't do any of this. What you really want to do that makes this sustainable, instead of start premium, stay premium, realize that premium rates are possible for you. Just start thinking about it, start marinating in it, right? And that you will feel confident charging them the more you work with clients and learn to take on bigger projects as you go. Take inspired action. Use those moments when you do feel confident, right? You have those days where you feel like everything is going right and you're in flow and you can take on the world. Use those. Don't second guess yourself back into inertia. Put your offer out there and get started on your growth curve, right? This doesn't mean, all of a sudden, dump 5 figures into, some business coach's pocket because all of a sudden you felt on one day like you could do something, right? I mean, you can if that's the way you want to go, but, you get what you pay for. We're going to talk about why it doesn't always work that well. Generate leads wherever you go. So do embody your work so fully that it's easy for you to have organic conversations with people you meet who can benefit from your work. Don't be creepy in the DMs, right? This is just about learning to be a person, right? So who does the business coaching model actually work for? Because there are some people that it does work for. You've seen them because business coaches will put them up on their stage and be like, look how well my program worked for the person. So if you have any of the following, you can probably make the business coaching model work for you immediately. If you have a large following that already trusts you, you can probably make this work immediately. Right? If you have 70,000 followers on Twitter who are liking your tweets, you can probably launch $1,000 program and get 30 people to sign up for it. If you have rich friends with issues you can solve, if you have 5 people in your network that you can sell a $20,000 package to, then sell that $20,000 package. Go for it. I don't know 5 people with $20,000. Do you? I mean, maybe I will eventually, and maybe at some point, like I will know how to pitch them and solve their issues because I do work in the music industry, but like, it's not something I'm going to do today and flub, you know, it's something that I'm going to build up a reputation for like, oh, wow. Yeah. You really want to see Arden for this work. And by that time, like people will be throwing their $20,000 at me, not me like getting on the phone, pressuring them when I have no proof of what my work is done. Right. A bunch of clients who have already paid for your smaller offers. If all you have to do is have the confidence to raise your prices, then great, then problem solved. If that's all that it takes, then you didn't need to hire that business coach for that insane amount of money. You just need to raise your prices. If you have wealthy family members who will cover your high ticket coaching investments so you can be detached about it. All right, well then sure, go for it, right? You will probably make money at some point that way. And you won't have to, you know, you won't have to put down so much money that you paralyze your nervous system. And okay, sure, why not, right? What I want to talk about is, oh, Chris, were you going to say something?
Just it's interesting that we came to the same point because the number was it 2 and 4 there, the rich friends and the rich family members. That's fundamentally what the financial advisory industry is about. So the retail financial advisors and financial planners, that's mostly the model. And again, I didn't come through much business coaches. You know, I advise big Fortune 500 CFOs as an investment banker, and becoming a sort of a one-on-one coach and a personal coach and a money coach. I had the same advice from Adam and how to bring an offer to the average person. So I've had the similar coaching as you, but again, the entire financial industry is the toxic business coach model that you're talking about. So it's very interesting that's exactly where I came from. That's why I was there for 5 years. I was like, I hate it, and I'm going to start my own business.
Wow, that's incredible to learn that
because it's a bad business model. Yeah, exactly. And it fundamental. I mean, you know, I can math nerd about it all day, but it is fundamentally a bad business model. I mean, it's a good con game, but it's a bad business model. So
that felt really affirming to hear, by the way. Thank you for that.
no sweat.
So I want to talk about the Betty Sue paradigm. This is based on people I have met in real life. Their names are not actually Betty and Sue, but I have seen this happen. So Betty has a large following that trusts her because she ran a blog for years, which she never monetized. Why? It was more important to her to just write in the blog and have an audience, but she never thought about, you know, making money and making finances her priority. She was just kind of like the broke girl with a blog. She buys a big coaching package, pitches her list, makes 100K in 3 months, and her coach invites her to speak on stage at his event to show his new potential clients her success, right? She had this big old list. It was big enough that she pitched, you know, like, hey, come to this event that I'm throwing for a reasonable amount of money. All right, now I have you in the room. Now I give you this great event where you feel really great. And then at the end, I pitch you for a much larger amount of money. Now you've been hanging out with me. You already said yes to the small amount. Now you're gonna want to work with me more, right? You're gonna want to work with me for like 6 months to a year. You're gonna spend this much on it, and yeah, Betty ended up making a whole lot of money. Good for her, right? I'm not gonna throw any shade at that. Those were honest transactions, and that totally worked for her. However, Sue is equally talented as a coach, but she's only ever worked with one client, but she believes in her abilities. She buys the same big coaching package, but she has trouble finding leads without feeling pushy. Her coach ignores her because he just figures she's not doing the work or something, refuses to refund her investment, and instead points to Betty as proof of the efficacy of his methods, right? Well, I'm going to have Betty speak on stage, and Sue, we just don't talk about anymore. So there's basically people who are running these programs and saying like, look, this person did it, so anyone can do it. But the truth is, they're not telling you about all the people who invested with them, who, you know, didn't have the same things that the other people who they brought up on their stage to be their, you know, their example, that they didn't have. And they won't tell you this. They want to enroll everybody. Why? I want to talk just a little bit. This is like the meta pattern. You do not need to know this in order to have your own business be successful, but I want to talk a little bit about this meta pattern so that you can recognize why this formula, this pyramid scheme, this MLM thing has gotten to be the way that it has, right? If you've taken any of my classes, you know, especially in regard to the repatterning project, you know that pattern recognition is a gift of mine. And what I see essentially is that there are some things where if as things get passed on, certain things get highlighted and certain things get pushed by the wayside, right? As certain things get learned and shared, et cetera, in the same way that, you know, CEO to worker pay about 50 years ago was a ratio of 20-1. And because CEOs kept putting more money in their own pockets and less money in the pockets of their workers over time, today, about 50 years later, that CEO to worker pay ratio is 300-1, roughly. You know, bounces around a little bit, but that was when last I checked, that was where it was hovering. So if you put more energy into one thing than the other, and you keep doing that over time, it's going to lead to more and more imbalance, right? Well, what's happened in the business coaching industry, quote unquote, as we know it, the reason that the coaching world imploded is that it put too much into the baskets of lead generation, high pressure sales tactics, and increasing revenue, right? So that means by the time there is a business coach who is, you know, advising you, they are so focused on their lead generation, their high pressure sales tactics, and their increasing revenue. They are not focused on delivery of promised services, client satisfaction, customer journey, or facilitator integrity. I'm going to tell you guys a funny story about this, you know, the kind of coach that I am throwing shade on. I went to a coach's event. I paid $1,000 to be there. I signed up for the early bird ticket, and then I signed up for the VIP, you know, do the special luncheon and sit front row at the event, you know, in the special table thing, which, you know, that package cost me $1,000. And I went there, and by day 3, and this actually, I'm going to bookmark that. I'm going to talk about that more when I talk about sales scripts, because I'm going to talk about why their sales scripts are toxic. So we're going to bookmark this story. But basically what happens is that over time, they're focusing so much on lead generation and high pressure sales tactics and increasing their revenue, but they're not focusing on their client satisfaction. Are they actually delivering the services they say they're doing? And that is why we end up in the Betty Sue paradigm, where Betty does great because she's already got everything that she needs to just implement this system right away. And Sue does not, because the coach who took on both of them as clients is not actually feeling into whether Sue is ready for a business coach who's doing what they're doing. They're just like, oh no, I'm increasing my revenue because the more money I make, then clearly the better business coach I am, right? Some people are just out for themselves. So if you responded to the copy in my post and signed up for this class, I'm assuming it's because you have integrity and want to charge for your services in a way that doesn't feel sleazy. Cool, that's what we're here to do. But first, we're going to go over limiting money beliefs. But before I do that, Chris, if I said anything so far that's bullshit.
Nah, you're right. You're right. You're right on the money. You're right on the money. And there's the math of that sort of pattern recognition is like a confirmation bias. It's a number of biases, but it's, you know, it's very common. People see the things they want to see, and then they ignore the things that they want to ignore, and don't sort of reinforce whatever script they're running in their minds. But yeah, that's it. The only thing that I would say again, that from the sleazy side of the industry, is that lead generation is important in business, but that's the only element of those three. And again, if your lead generation is good and you put work in that, and then you do care about your customers and all the things that a good coach would do and make sure people do have success and help them troubleshoot. Was it Sue? Help Sue create a new blog so that she could get leads, and like that's what you're missing, right? Then that's the magic of business. But again, the shortcut artists just do the first step, and then they sort of unethically just push it in to close the deals. So yeah, no, you're 100%. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is.
I once watched that event that I was, that I was at. I once watched this coach. I watched this business coach on stage say that until you're making like $500,000 a year or something like that, that you should be focusing 80% of your energy on lead generation. And I was like, am I the only math nerd here that's like, wait a minute. So that means when I go to that back table and I sign up for your $60,000 program, then I've just become 75% less important to you. You've just gone from spending 80% of your energy on me to spending 20% of your energy on me. Like if 80% of your business is on getting clients, what that means is that only 20% of your energy is on the clients who have already paid to work with you. I'm like, am I the only one? I'm like, here, am I the only person in this Marriott ballroom who sees that?
That's a good catch. That's a good catch.
I was like, what? How does this even make sense?
It's a very good catch. Yeah.
All right. So limiting money beliefs. So no amount of business strategy will help you if you were unconsciously afraid of making money, right? So we have to cover this a little bit. Our beliefs can form early in our childhood when we gain feedback from witnessing and interacting with the world. This is what most of the repatterning project is about, by the way, is figuring out the things that we learned unconsciously when we gain feedback from witnessing and interacting with the world, and figuring out where we learn things, were they helpful for us? Do we still want to be learning those things? And basically untangling all those wires and rebundling those wires nice and neatly so that they do the things that we actually want them to do. So our parents' relationship to money likely helped form our own, right? So if we're growing up and we're watching the things that our mom and dad are saying about money, this is going to affect the way that we feel about it, right? Also, if there are instances in which we learn that it was unsafe for us to like do better than other people in our family, right? Neil Strauss has a book where he talks about a story of a man who basically kept self-sabotaging, would be up in line for a promotion at work, and then, would end up drinking too much the night before, would go into work hungover the next day. And then people would be like, wow, we don't really know what's up with him. We were going to give him a promotion, but he's kind of flubbing it. Well, it turns out that when this man was 11 years old, he had said something that he thought was smart at the dinner table, and, had corrected his dad or something like that. And his dad didn't like it. And his mother had gotten upset because then the dad was upset. His mom had said to him, don't you ever try to be better than your father. Well, what happens then? We're not thinking about it, but there's a moment where we realize that we're unsafe because we've said something and it's landed with our caretakers who are responsible for our survival in a way that they didn't like. Oh shit, right? And I'm 11 years old at the dinner table going, oh God, right? And if something is making me afraid, I'm having a nervous system response, and that's going to activate my hypothalamic gland, that's basically going to squirt some memory juice and make this store in my mind, right? It's like a lightning path. And what do I hear in that moment? Don't you ever be better than your father. And then I'm like, I'm that dude in his 30s or 40s or whatever, and I'm in line for a promotion. And unconsciously, I'm not thinking about the fact that I was 11 and I heard my mom say something, right? Why would I think about that? But unconsciously, I'm up for a promotion and I start to feel fear, right? For me, I had to face the fact that I had trauma around having clients because I was a pro dom and I got doxxed, and I had a bunch of my clients turn on me, and it was very, very stressful to say the least. I'm not going to go into that whole story, but I did not know how to have boundaries with clients when I was a 22-year-old sex worker. And that was the only experience that I had having clients. So going into launching my business, I was a dating coach, quote unquote, for years, who never actually really coached people unless it was Adam hiring me to teach at his events. I had a blog, I had a book, I was super smart. I made almost no money from it because I didn't have a model for how to safely have clients. So even if people wrote to me, I was like defensive. If people didn't like super come correct, if they like said like, oh, hey, can I have a consultation? I'd be like, no, I don't work for free. I'd be like mad about it, right? Because the idea of having a client still felt threatening to me. Something funny is that when I went to this big old business seminar that I went to, one of my clients from when I was a pro dom ended up being on screen at this event because this person had started working with this particular business coach. Talk about a lesson from the universe. I suddenly realized why I had never actually put a business together. There I am in this Marriott ballroom, and on the projector is this person's face, and I'm looking at them, and all of a sudden I'm having a PTSD response. I'm like, I have to go sit in the hallway. And I'm like, oh, Arden, do you think maybe that's why that has something to do with why you haven't actually created a business yet? It absolutely did. Once I become aware of that, then I can address that, right? And then I know it's like, oh, I know why that's happening. That's an unconscious fear response that says, oh shit, I don't actually know how to have a boundaried relationship with a client. Then I sit and ask myself, I'm like, Arden, do you know how to have a boundaried relationship with a client? I'm like, well, yeah, I do now. Okay, good. then do that, right? So here are some questions to ask yourself. And again, if we had like, if this was something that I was doing till 6 p.m. today, I would have people take 10 minutes and fill these all out for themselves. I'm not going to do that because I want to try and cram this information into this two-hour workshop plus 1 hour Q&A. So when you have some time for yourself, some question to ask yourself and to think about: what did your mom believe about money? What did your dad believe about money? This next question I included here because even though it sounds a little shitty, when I heard it, it landed in a way that was transformative for me. So in case it lands in a way that is transformative for you, this next question: what are some of the ways you have disrespected money in the past? And I was like, wow, well, bailing my abusive ex out of jail, that was certainly a disrespect to money. I made that money and I gave it to someone who was hurting me, right? It was tough for me to hear, but it was something that I needed to think about. Do you have any trauma or bad experiences around being responsible to people, right? This is something that I added in here specifically because I had bad experiences about being responsible to people when I got doxxed as a pro dom. Basically, people were like, I won't go into that whole story, but it was basically this idea of I didn't know how to take my client's money without feeling like I was obligated to maintain a fantasy at all times. And when I got doxxed, it was very ugly. What are some of the amazing things you would love to do with more money, right? So some of the things that you can start thinking about to motivate you, right? If you had that money, what would your life be like? That's also a great question. That's a great, it's a great antidote to the disrespecting money question, right? All right, here's how I wasted some money in my past, right? Or here's how I chose to do things with money that ultimately weren't good for me. But here are some of the amazing things that I could do with money in the future. And then finally, what do you believe about money, right? If you have resistance to accepting money, this can be repatterned. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to help you do that right now, because I'm going to tell you some of the reasons that I prefer to pay people for their work rather than get it for free. Some of the reasons, right? Some people are like, oh, I feel weird about taking your money. Please don't feel weird about taking my money, because I actually feel weird about having people do things for me for free unless we have that kind of a relationship and, I can really trust them. And also if I don't need it by a specific point in time, right? The last thing that I want to do is I don't want to hassle someone who is essentially doing me a favor, right? So some of the reasons I prefer to pay people for their work rather than get it for free include a clear deadline, right? If I'm paying you, then I get to say when it's due by. If you're doing it for me for free, then it's a little dicier. 2, professional expectations. If it's not to my standards and you did it for me for free, what am I going to do? That you did it to me for free, right? But if it's not to my standards and I'm paying for it, I get to come back and say, hey, can we do a revision, right? Hey, let's make some changes to this. Like, great draft. I have some notes, right? 3, I get to be annoying and ask questions on the process, right? If there's something that I feel along the way isn't like going great, as long as I'm not a dick about it, I can micromanage someone. I can, I'm not going to micromanage them in a way that, impedes them doing the work that they do. But if I'm like, hey, can we put this here? Can we do that? If I'm paying them, that's cool, right? 4, I know I'm not imposing on their free time. I would feel really bad people doing things for me for free and being like, did this take more time than you thought it would? 5, I can trust them to hold the boundaries of the container, right? We're going to talk about how to do this a little later on in today's workshop. We're going to talk about how to basically say, like, once I hire them, once I say, this is what I want, and I pay them my money, they're going to take care of doing it, right? If they're a good professional anyway. 6, I like feeling taken care of. I have daddy issues. Okay. Obviously. I've always joked that a music producer is essentially just a dad that you pay for. Right. I like to feel like I can hand someone my money and then they're going to like get in the car and drive. Right. It's like what if I'm calling an Uber, I tell you, this is the address that I have to get to, but then I get in the car and you're driving and I don't have to worry about anything. And I love that feeling. Right. And finally, I like to treat myself. People like to spend money. There's someone in here that said something about this class, like, oh, I think I'm going to treat myself. And I was like, yes, you've just predicted part of the curriculum, right? So this is why people may have signed. That's why you may have signed up for this class. Be like, hey, yeah, I want to learn about, how to make money and feel good and not feel a whole ton of pressure around it. Why not, right? That sounds like a great way to spend a Saturday afternoon. So people like to treat themselves. So for all of these reasons, it is actually generous to charge money. It is generous to charge money because you give people a container in which they can have some expectations of the quality and delivery of your work, basically, right? If you don't do that, you're not letting people actually tell you what they want out of your work without, potentially annoying you because you were doing it for free. So if you
love those, I love
sorry,
those so much, Arden. That's so important. And it gets into a lot of what I teach and work with people on. I actually have a book club, the TWA book club on Facebook. And it's actually mostly a book. It's obviously about money, but it's really just a book on psychology and those limiting beliefs that you mentioned. And I like that third question, like, how do I disrespect money? I haven't ever heard that one, but it's really powerful. Every month I read a book again and share my notes on it. But it's really all that, because all my technical, interest rate, tax code knowledge can get you so far. But a lot of what I find with the people I work with, both business owners and just, personal, people's finances and families, is it's working through these limiting beliefs. And I like those suggestions that you gave, which I'm gonna borrow some of those for my clients, because it's really important. I often talk about, like, if you can't receive, like, how much pleasure do you get out of giving a gift to someone on their birthday or Christmas and doing something? Like, isn't that happy? Like, you do it because you just truly want that power to make someone smile. It's like, well, people are trying to do that to you too, man. Like, let them, be on the other side of that equation. So that is so important. I can't stress it enough. And the hardest part for me in getting people to the next level of wealth is identifying those limiting beliefs and coaching people through breaking them. And those are great questions and examples for that. So that's very, very powerful, and you obviously know it and understand it, but just for anyone else, if you don't think, that's in money, people like to focus on like concrete things and the less, the woo-woo feeling side of it. But like, as someone who I am as cold, financially fact, money number driven person as they come, and at the end of the day, to get to the next level, you've got to address those issues. And I think it was Heather made some comments, working class family, both of my parents had serious issues with money. I wanted to be a doctor so I could, cure diseases and save the world. And as I was graduating, on the aisle at Yale, I was like, no, I'm gonna be an investment banker because I need to understand how money works. And because I don't know, and I think, I can, if I understand how to finance Pfizer, I can make more drugs to heal people. And that was my logic then. And so But again, if I didn't, I would never learn all the things that I learned poorly from, again, dinner table conversations with parents. So I just want everyone to know how powerful what Arden just said was. Those last two slides is really, really critical for your success.
Yay, awesome. Yeah, and thank you for that reflection too, Chris. I super appreciate that. And as this slide says, if you feel like you have imprinted resistance around receiving money, and this is something you want to work on, reach out to me after class about timeline therapy, and we will rewire this together. I am offering discounted timeline therapy sessions to participants of this class only through the end of June. Normally, I only offer one-off sessions to my graduates of the repatterning project, because I'm not going to lie, I always feel like until we have a foundation of the information established, it's hard to like be on the same page. And I don't want people come in just like doing a one-off session saying, oh, I feel a little better, and then slipping back into the same thing again. So normally I reserve my individual sessions only for graduates of the course. But if you are here, we have enough of a baseline knowledge of what we're working on in order to be able to do a session or two together around rewiring your beliefs about money. So I'm offering a 20% off. They are usually $250. I'm discounting them to $200 for people who are in this class only. And the key is you have to book your session and use it by the end of June. So reach out to me if that's something that you want to do. In addition, speaking of pitches, Chris, you're offering a class next Saturday. Why don't you tell us about that too?
I am, thanks. Please take Arden up on that offer. Like I rather pitch Arden's offer, because before you even take my free class next Saturday, it's so important to get through those beliefs. And I've had a timeline therapy session myself, and it pulled out things that I had no idea. And again, I've been an investment banker for 10 years, and then a private banker for another 10 years. And so I thought I had pulled out all the nonsense and knew the right way. And that timeline therapy is so powerful. I found more stuff. And I know I've gotten a lot more successful since that session about 2 years ago. It's really powerful. So if you can get a bonus deal on that, I would strongly recommend jumping on that. Yeah, I can't stress it enough. In any case, my little thing next Saturday, I'm doing a free masterclass on financial planning 101, all the things about money that we should have been taught in high school. If you text me, that's my personal cell phone. Please don't post it publicly or sign me up for any weird stuff. But yeah, shoot me a text and I'll send you a link to register. It'll be next Saturday at 11 CST. So I guess if you're in PST folks, you're 9 a.m. And yeah, be a couple hours, and I'm just going to go through budgeting systems and just all the fundamentals and basics of money and personal finance. So it'll be fun.
And thank you for offering that, by the way. That's so incredibly generous, because having worked with you as a money coach, learning what I learned from you about like the different buckets of where to think about where you're putting your money. It was so great. It really like helped me organize my brain around money so much. And I'm so stoked.
I'm going to teach all that on Saturday. Yep, exactly.
So good. And you're doing it for free.
Yeah, exactly. Look, if everyone has the basics, they can then, hire me for more complex stuff. But I want everyone to have the basics and be like, yo, Christopher, help me. And, again, that's my legacy. So just work at it every week.
Dope. I love it. Thank you so much for offering it in this class too.
Pleasure. Yeah.
All right. So clarifying your offers. So people need to know what you do and what it costs. This is one of those things that I'm just going to say what I put on the slide. Some of the most talented individuals I know are not making any money at their craft because nobody they talk to knows what they're available for. You guys.
So sad.
This was me as a dating coach forever, right? Because I had unconscious beliefs that I was, scared of having clients, which was normal because I had trauma, right? That was understandable. But as a result, I was like, I don't understand. I have a book published. Why aren't people just emailing me out of the blue, asking to work with me and hiring me for, I don't know, you figure it out. What do you want to, what do you need? You know, like you call me, I didn't call you, right? Well, no wonder I had no clients. Nobody knew what packages I had or what I was available for. Nobody knew what my rates were. I didn't know what my rates were. Even when I was a pro dom, when I was a professional dominatrix, I worked at a house where all the rates were set. I didn't have to think about that, right? I didn't really even have to book my own sessions. Sometimes people would email me before they would book with me, but I didn't have to worry about the phone, all that whole process. So there I was being like, I don't understand. I'm definitely the smartest person about, you know, dating knowledge from, you know, a proactive female perspective. I was a female pickup artist back in the day. Why is nobody hiring me? Well, I never made a clear offer. Gee, I wonder why, right? So if there is something that you love doing, you must be super clear about what it is and what you're available for. So a clear offer must include the following: what the client is receiving from you, right? What are they getting? What is the service they're paying for? How much it costs, right? Can they afford it? Someone who is looking at this offer, like 9 times out of 10, you want to have a price on it because you want them to know, like, is this in my price range? Can I afford this? And 3, how to sign up, right? At the end of, even I don't have like a very, you know, sophisticated sign up process, as I'm sure all of you have noticed. The majority of you messaged me, PM'd me on one of my social media platforms, and I literally sent you the Zoom link manually. And I sent a little blank carbon copy email to everyone before the class began. I'm going to send you all the replay from my official mailing list with my nice template. But for the most part, I'm just like, I don't know, the whole website thing, it's not my wheelhouse, right? I would rather just connect with people and just talk to them like people, at least for now. Like maybe when my volume increases more, then I'll have like, it'll get to a point where it'll be worth it for me to actually have like design a sign up page or whatever. But basically, you still knew how to sign up because at the end of my post, I said, hey, comment here or message me if you have any questions or you want to get signed up, right? So everyone knew, oh, I just sent her a message and I say, how do I sign up? And I'm like, great, here's my PayPal or Venmo link, and I'll just send you the Zoom link. That was super easy, right? At some point, I'll do it in a way that will even be easier for everybody, myself included. But basically, it worked, right? You knew what to do. Other details that you might want to include in your offer include who it's for, right? Is there something that people need to have as a prerequisite in order to work with you? Is there a certain level that they should already be at, right? I basically implied in my post, I was like, this class is for creatives who want to figure out how to make a living doing what they love, right? When it's available, is this a limited time offer? Is it starting now? Is it a class that is, you know, scheduled at a certain day on the calendar? When can the client expect a finished product, right? Depending on, you know, this might be something that you cover in the discovery call, so it might not be in your offer, but it might be, right? If you want something, if you want your photos by the end of the month or whatever, here's, you know, sign up with me now. And any requirements, again, for beginning, right? Is there any prerequisite that people need to have established before they can start working with you, right? So that depends. So you will end up with several of these offers at different price points, and we'll cover this in a minute, right? But a clear offer is pretty much just what is the client getting from you? How much is it going to cost them? And how do they take action on it, right? Who are the people who are the hungriest for what you have to offer? I'm going to use my bandmate as an example here. I've been coaching my bandmate a little bit because, like most musicians, like I'll just say this: the music industry is not a hotbed of money making. It's like maybe for some of the executives who are at a label, right? But even artists at a label have been complaining about, you know, how much cut the label is taking. Spotify doesn't give you enough of your streams, you know, and people who are still struggling to make it have this sort of, often, like and I say this because I had this idea, a lot of people who are struggling to make it as an artist basically have this like idea of this old paradigm, like either I'm gonna like I'm going to work real hard and I'm going to starve myself. And then one day someone is going to choose me. I'm going to get my record deal. I'm going to get my big break. And then all the ways I've been doing it, all the ways I've been working since I was 15 years old will finally have been worth it. Maybe that worked back in the days of like the Ed Sullivan Show. Today we have to like choose ourselves basically. Right. And so we want to break out of that old paradigm and start thinking, who are the people out there who I know right now who are hungry for what I have to offer? So I was talking to my bandmate about this, right? And he was like, yeah, I've been trying to make some more money doing remixes for other bands. And I was like, that's cool, but do you know who's going to pay you more money? And do you know who wants more badly to work with you? Because you've got bands, right? So you're doing remixes. That's not a bad way to make money. You can set a rate for remixes and you can say, hey, I'm available for this. If you're a band and you want your tune remixed, I'll go ahead and do that for you. That's definitely that's a good offer to have under your belt, right? But since a lot of bands, are already accustomed to not making a lot of money, they're likelier to be cheaper with what they're spending. No offense to any musicians who are here. I'm a musician myself, right? But if you're in that paradigm in the music industry where you're all just like, well, I'll just collaborate for free with some people and we'll all kind of promote each other's work. And that's lovely. That's great community, right? That's wonderful. But if what you're looking to do is to make money doing what you love, which is what this class is about today, if that's what you're looking for, you want to start thinking about who are the people who are hungriest for what you have to offer. So I told my bandmate, I said, you know who's hungriest for what you have to offer? Strippers and trust fund kids and anyone with money who go to the clubs and secretly have dreams of being a singer. I would have killed for a package like that when I was working as a stripper back in New York. And, I was recovering from the trauma of, bailing my ex out of jail after the pro-dom thing went down. That's why I don't get in that whole story. It's a whole big can of worms. But when I started trying to be like, recover financially from a whole bunch of big financial setbacks, I went into stripping so I could make just a bunch of cash up front. And then, I was kind of stuck there for a little while because I was stuck in a trauma repetition response. But while I was there, I would have killed for the opportunity to suddenly turn my life around, which I eventually ultimately did, but I kind of had to find that way myself. There was no one who was a music producer who came and pitched me, who basically said, hey, if you have a spare couple $1,000s lying around, I will produce you a really dope track and you will be able to, release it on Spotify or whatever, right? Eventually I found out how to do that myself, but there's just a whole bunch of money that is sitting around meantime, right? Where there are people, even if they're not music producers, right? There are people who know how to make music and they're not asking the people who would most love to make music, right? I talked about very recently about how I've had to, in my own bands, in my own projects, I never had anyone come along and hand me a band, right? I was a singer with no band. There's plenty of singers who are out there who got some dude who with a computer who's like, oh, I'll put you as my front woman. I'll write all the songs you sing. Here you go. Right. And for whatever reason, that never happened to me. I wish it had. It would have made my life a lot easier. But I was hungry and I was ready to pay someone. And if you had told me that I could spend what I would make in a night to 2 to 3 nights of stripping, depending on how good the nights were. And I could have my own song that I could put up on Spotify and suddenly turn myself into a musical artist. You bet I would have spent money on that. Right. So if you're sitting there and thinking, well, I'll just do remixes for bands, right? That's, maybe $500 here or there, if you're lucky, depending on what kind of, how much budget your bands have, right? Keep in mind, they're already paying for their own stuff. They're already paying for their own, likely, mixing and mastering, promotion, et cetera, et cetera. So go where there are people who have money and who desperately want what you have to offer. So, essentially I told him, I was like, hey, if you're DJing, there's going to be a lot of, there's going to be a lot of, say, trust fund kids or, people who have money who want to be cool and want to be famous and want to be singers and want to go after that dream for themselves. And they're willing to pay for your expertise in creating a track, right? I would not know how to open Ableton, which is a music production software. I would not know how to open it on a computer. I do not self-produce. I need someone to do that for me. And I love spending money on it, right? It's what a lot of people who are in the music industry don't know yet, right? Because they're like, there's this idea that being in the music industry has to be a struggle, and it doesn't. So here is the example that I wrote up for him. I was like, here's what you're going to write for a post, right? Now, I wrote this post for him, but none of this is a lie. I've known him for over 10 years now. And this is all true, right? There is nothing sleazy marketing about this. It is just about writing something that is clear. So I'm going to read it aloud to you. Nowadays, with distribution and crowdfunding, it's easier than ever to get your music into the world, create a fan base, and earn revenue through streaming and Patreon. That means pursuing your music dreams is easier than it's ever been in history. This is true. But if you don't already know how to produce music, you need someone you can trust to bring your vision into reality. Also true, and don't I know it? I've been creating music in the music industry as a producer, guitarist, etc. for X amount of years. Before the pandemic, I spent most of my time DJing, but with more free time on my hands, I've been working more and more with artists in the studio. If you've had dreams of making a career as a singer-songwriter, I'd like to help you make that dream a reality. Together, we'll find out what kind of music you're most excited about making, what you want it to sound like, and then we'll create your song, EP, or full-length album. At the end of the process, you'll receive your fully mixed and mastered track ready to immediately post for distribution through any of the free platforms available for self-releasing. Notice that there's also management of expectations in that paragraph, right? What he's basically saying is, I am not responsible for whether this song actually makes you famous or not. You have to do your own promotion. You're going to release it yourself. But guess what? There's a lot of free platforms where you can do that. If it's just a matter of me telling you where to go to upload it, I can help you with that part, right? And to top it all off, as a graduation bonus, since this is my bandmate and he does DJ at a lot of very cool nights in New York City, as a graduation bonus, you and 10 of your friends will get a VIP guest list spot to hear your song played at one of my local DJ nights, right? So that's a win-win, because all of a sudden he's brought in more people for his local club, right? It's going to be no problem. He's going to get them a bottle of vodka. They're going to be real happy. It's going to be a great night. He's going to play their song. The club's not going to care. He's playing one song that maybe nobody else knows, because that person and their friends are all going to be dancing to it. And then guess what? They've got 10 friends there who say, oh my God, I want to make a song. I want to have it played at a club night like this. I think I could be a singer. And guess who they're going to talk to, right? I'm offering 3 introductory artist spots valued at $2,000 each at half price, $1,000, in exchange for a testimonial I can use on my site. We'll talk about getting testimonials and introductory rates a little later in the workshop. If you know you're ready and you want in, comment below or send me a message. That post has everything that you need to hear there. If there's anyone here who's convinced that they want to be a singer now because they've read this post, please reach out to my bandmate.
I do. That's such a great point. I'm like, yeah, I could be a rapper. Yeah,
you could.
Cool. I mean, for $1,000, just have like everyone hear my song in the club. Just I'll do that for my birthday, just for funsies. Like one day.
Right?
That's a great offer.
Totally
That's a great offer. Yeah, I'm literally like, I'm sold on this guy. I'm literally thinking, I'm gonna buy myself this for my birthday.
You totally should.
It
would be amazing. And he's great.
You've got all the elements though. You've got all the elements. It's beautiful.
And I can say, like, from working with him too, like I work with him as his bandmate. So I know, I know what he's capable of, and I can see outside of his abilities. He's been stuck in them, taking himself for granted. No offense. Like we all do that, right? I was taking myself for granted a lot too. So, but he's incredible. He's super talented at this. This is something he could easily do. You just need to have this clear offer, right? Once you have that clear offer, it's right in front of you. So if you want me to help you write one of these, hit me up and we will bang this out in a single session, right? I did that last one at midnight when I was stoned as I'm texting with my bandmate. It's just in my brain now. So I will help you out. If you haven't noticed, I have to build my pitches into my presentation, because otherwise I'll get so excited about the material that I forget to make a clear offer. We're all about making a clear offer, right? So, Sydney says, yes, oh my God, I want you to help me. Yes, we will do this, right? We'll absolutely
take Arden up on that offer. That's you. I'm gonna take you up on that offer, please.
Hell yeah, are you kidding? In a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be for the same rate as the discounted timeline therapy session. It's going to be the same amount of time. It's going to be a 75-minute session. The same discount. It used to be $250. It's going to be $200. So, all right, I'm going to read you the offer, the pitch that I wrote for me pitching the service to you. I love it. I'm seeing people in the comments who are all like, already like, yes, I want to do it. Wonderful. I love that I've sold you already. I'm going to sell you even harder. Nowadays, with the ability to build an audience via a social media platform, it's easier than ever to share your craft and attract the kind of aligned clients who want to pay you to do what you're good at. Are we seeing a bit of a formula here? But if you don't already know how to make a clear offer, you might be sleeping on entire revenue streams that would be fun ways to make money doing what you already love. I had to learn to make this leap myself when I realized that my means of income were not sustainable and that I was draining my own energy participating in work environments that were harmful to me. I was stripping. I was basically, I worked my way out of like the plain old, like straight up, we put you in the room and assault you clubs. I was working in cleaner and cleaner clubs, but it was still causing my body to go into a desensitization response. That's not where I want to be at as an artist. I want to be in my body. I want to be in flow, right? So I spent the past 3 years learning how to build my business and support myself through teaching the repatterning project. And I can share how to build your offer and make a clearly written post about it. If you're one of the many folks fed up with an exploitative capitalist system that is not helping you live comfortably, tired of waiting for clarity around how to make a living doing what you love, you're not alone, and I can help you. Together, we'll spend a 75-minute session figuring out exactly how to structure, price, and write copy for your first offer. Normally, working with me privately for a single session is only open to graduates of the repatterning project, and individual sessions are $250 each. I'm offering the attendees of today's workshop a chance to book a discounted single session with me specifically to get clarity on making their first offer for $200, 20% off the usual price, but you must book and use your session by the end of June, so sign up today. So everything I just said, here's what we're going to do. Here's what you're going to get. It's a 75-minute session where I help you work on writing this. I told you how much it is, and I told you what to do to reach out and book with me, and I told you when it's going to be done by, right? Because this is a limited time offer, quote unquote. Just seeing seeing comments in here. Yay! Oh, people are connecting with one another. I love that. Yay! Oh, I love this. People are into it. This makes me super happy. Yay! So yeah, email me, message me, or whatever, because I probably won't remember who said in the chat, but I'm totally stoked to work with you guys because this is super fun for me. And I promise it won't be midnight and I'm stoned, unless you want to. Actually, if it's midnight and I'm stoned, it costs extra. All right, so we're at the end of that section. Chris, did I say anything when it was bullshit?
That was gold. That was gold. Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Yeah, your ability to craft an offer, it's so powerful. It's so powerful.
Awesome, sweet, and thank you. All right, cool. So being mindful of time, I'm gonna go ahead and forge ahead. We're almost at the halfway point. We're a little over. We got started a little late, so we're gonna be okay. All right, so finding your clients. Who needs your work? Who is willing to pay for it? Where do you find them? And if you build it, will they come? Finding your clients and building your audience. Finding people who want to purchase your services and making sure the people who want to purchase your services have places to find you. So this is sort of two opposite ends of the same candle, right? Finding your clients. So being so passionate about what you do that you naturally talk about it everywhere. So this is true. It's just you're not going to be like sliding into everyone's DMs being like, hey, why'd you like my post, right? But when you meet people out in the world and they ask you like what you do or what you're about, you're going to say, hey, yeah, this is what I do. And if this is something that you're interested in, by the way, this is what I'm available for, right? That doesn't have to be like creepy or weird, but if you're, let's take my, my bandmate for an example. If you're out, why don't you, what better thing to say, right? Than when someone asks what you do to say, oh, I'm a music producer, right? He's not lying. He's not, he might not be a producer with a label, but these days being a music producer means that you produce music for a living, right? You can do that independently. You can do that for indie artists. So imagine being like, oh, I'm a music producer, and someone being like, you could see the stars in their eyes being like, oh, really? I've always wanted to be a singer. Well, that's great. I work with independent artists. I have some pretty accessible rates for people who are just getting started, who aren't, and then, when your first single takes off and you're ready to make an EP, then you come back and we'll make something bigger together. But here's some of my work. Here's where you can check out what I've done. right? And then, they're going to go to his website and they're going to see those 3 great testimonials that he got from those 3 people that he gave that introductory rate to, right? And then to be like, hey, here's 3 people who have worked with me who had a great experience. And they're going to be like, wow, I want to do it too, right? So being so passionate about what you do that you naturally talk about it everywhere. When people ask me what I do, I talk about how I have a course called the Repatterning Project. It's like, how we learn things when we grow up, like our early childhood socialization, we form our patterns like oftentimes very early on, and they don't always suit us for later on in life. And they're like, yeah, I did notice that actually. I've been working in therapy around that for like 2 years now. I'm like, no kidding. My course can help you untangle all those wires in about 8 weeks. It's going to be pretty intense, but you can go and bring all that information to your therapist. You can keep working with your therapist, but this framework is going to help you get through that a lot faster. And they're like, holy shit, are you kidding? You mean I can decrease the time that I'm spending in therapy and have this like actually fuel my results to be faster? And I'm like, yes, why don't you read some of these testimonials from these people who took my course the first round when I was getting testimonials when it was only $500. There, you see, now you can see how it works. But now that I already have all these testimonials, now it's 2000. So right, you get a discount if you take a leap of faith with me the first time. So hanging out places where they're likely to be. This is another one where with someone like my bandmate, right? It's like if you're DJing a lot of DJ nights, there's probably a lot of people there who want to be pop stars, right? Because they're hanging out at the club. They like music. They like dancing. They like getting dressed up, right? If you are a photographer, right? If you're a photographer, you're one of the people who might actually really benefit from a lot of those weekend-long business coaching seminars, because all those people are going to come out inspired to start a business, and they're going to need some headshots, right? If you're a photographer, writing off one of those weekend-long business seminars, that might actually get you a lot of potential clients. So hanging out places where they're likely to be. Guest appearances, podcasts or videos, right? I asked Chris to be a part of this class today. I figured that like most of my classes, I usually write most of the material myself, but I was like, Chris, I'd love to have you on because you're going to add so much value, just like, throwing in, your wisdom that you have from all these years in the financial industry that I don't have. And I want to make sure that you're checking me. So I'm not just saying some stuff that doesn't actually make sense or whatever, come be a part of my class. And I'd love to introduce you to all my audience. And Chris was like, yeah, hell yeah, I'd love to do that because I want to hang out, I want to hang out places where people who might want to be my clients are likely to be. And if you're taking a money class, then you might want to hire Chris as your money coach, right?
Yeah, again, and that's exactly it. And this goes back to, the earlier point, like this is ethical lead generation and healthy lead generation, right? Where people, again, you're offering your services are available, your skill set is on offer, and then people can opt in to working with you. And this is how it should be done. And it doesn't require any of the high pressure sales tactics if you're doing this. And so it, again, in anyone starting a business, it's important to spend some time doing these. Guess what? I'm doing this with Arden this Saturday, and the next Saturday I'm doing my own. And again, it requires some time, but this is a good way to do it. And then when people come to you and opt in and consent to you telling them, giving them a pitch and explaining, the benefits of your services and how that can affect their life, and who, if they're qualified for them, and what they can expect and when they can get deliverables, that you don't need. I mean, you don't need any sales tactics really. You just be like, sign up here. This is the price. And it's just very straightforward and pleasant. And people who don't opt in will at least be happy that they know that you exist. Right. So some of you may not want to hire me today, but hopefully you're happy that I exist. And you may come across somebody who's like, I need help with money. You'd be like, oh, I met a friend of Arden's on the seminar the other day. I can introduce you, right? Or maybe you find someone who wants to start a business as well, because they hear, you happen to be talking about it. Oh, well, you should speak to my friend Arden, who had this great seminar and can give you some advice on getting over money hurdles and things of that sort. So yeah, this is healthy lead generation. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Awesome. Yay. Yeah, right. So it works out, right? So you can be on a podcast, you can be on someone's video, you can make a guest appearance in someone's class, right? If it's what Adam Lyons, my business coach, the business coach who I'm like, he's a good guy. He's the one I've learned the most useful stuff from. um you can be like, oh, I don't want to work for free for exposure, right? And that might be the case, right? You don't want to work for a big corporation that can definitely afford to pay you for free, right? But you do want to get exposure by just going and talking about the thing, because you love to do this, right? So this is something we're talking about, making money at something that you love to do. So being able to go and talk to more people about what it is you love to do, and that should hopefully be enjoyable, right? If it's not someone who you want to talk to, right? If it's not like a person you want to be associated with, and that's one thing. But hopping on with some of your friends on their podcast, their classes or whatever, and talking about your work, that should hopefully be something that's fun, that gets you exposure, that doesn't feel like you're being drained, right? That's just you talking yourself up in a way that is helpful for everybody and also helpful for you. And finally, asking your friends for referrals. This is totally cool. You can also do this in a very non-sleazy way, right? It's just a matter of like, hey, if you know anyone who needs XYZ, just keep me in mind. I'm available for this, right? Again, it's not about being pushy or being a weird bot or an automaton. It's just about having conversations with people and treating people like people, right? And then building your audience. So that's about finding your clients, right? Going out like this is again, it's about whether you're going and finding people or whether people are finding you, right? So you want to also have an audience. You want to have, like, for example, whenever I have a class like this or whenever I'm enrolling for anything, I post mostly on my Facebook, but I also post in the Repatterning Parlor, which has 1,100 people in it now. And I put all those posts in those group because I know that the people who want more of my work are going to go hang out in the parlor. It's free. They don't have to buy in, but you can bet I'm going to spam them with a lot of posts because it's my group. And I also think that even if you don't sign up for my classes, I think the marketing posts also have valuable content in them. So if you don't want to see a whole bunch of my marketing posts, you don't have to be in the group, but you're there. I assume you're there to learn from me. So whether you sign up for the class or not, I'm going to put a lot of posts there, right? So social media posts are one way that you're going to build your audience. Also, making sure that you're also making posts that aren't just offers, right? People want to get to know you. People want to get to know what you're about. And if you're always constantly selling, that might feel, unless your marketing copy is super, super valuable and you're just making a little offer at the end. I've seen some coaches who do that and they do it pretty well. That's fine, but you also want to be like a human, right? You also want to make sure that you're basically just living your life authentically and allowing people to connect with you as like a full person, right? Videos and podcasts. So you could start your own podcast or you could start your own YouTube channel. That's another great way to grow your audience, right? So your social media posts, right? You could have an Instagram platform, Facebook platform, Twitter platform, depending on what you're doing. Those platforms are going to be of different value to different industries, right? But that's where you can collect audience there. You can collect audience on YouTube or on your podcast, right? Have people subscribe to that. Then you have them all there and you can get your information out to them. Live hangouts, right? If you're doing like Facebook Lives or Google Hangouts or stuff that, you can do this on Patreon, etc. This might be something, that you want to monetize, or it might not. There's some great coaches who will drum up a lot of interest by doing something like, hey, I'm going to go live 30 days in a row. Or I'm going to go live 100 days in a row. And here's this, kind of topics that I'm going to be talking about. And over time, people really establish a relationship with them. After 30 days going live in a row, you might be like, wow, I feel like I really have a good sense of this coach and their integrity. I want to work with them. Mailing list, right? This is one that I need to use more often. Probably most of you, if you're on my list, got like the 3 emails that I sent about this class, 3 or 4 emails, I forget how many. But I haven't, I don't use it as much as I should. So I'm teaching this class, reminding myself that my mailing list is something I have to actually be better about. Any communities you lead, this includes your, Facebook groups, etc. There is someone who I was advising recently who is an admin for a Star Wars group, and they're looking to someone in this class mentioned wanting to monetize their writing, right? This was someone who also wanted to monetize creative fiction writing. And they were in a Star Wars group that they moderated. And this Star Wars group had, I think, over 15,000 people in it. And this person was a pretty well-known moderator. Well, if you have access to a group of 15,000 people who already trust you, likely because you're a moderator, if you make a post in there and say, hey, you guys, I'm starting a Patreon for my sci-fi writing. If you like Star Wars, you might also like this cool new fictional universe that I have created. And if you join my Patreon, here's where you can, read all the chapters as I put them out, right? I would subscribe to that. I'd give that person $5-10 a month just for the fact that they moderate a community that I care about. I don't really read fiction. I'm not going to lie. I'm probably not going to spend my time reading their writing, but you can bet that I would make a monthly pledge because I'd be like, oh, that person is someone who is leading a community that I value and I want to support them, so I'm going to throw them $5 or $10 a month just as a thank you because I support what they're doing, right? So any communities that you have some leadership in, right? And finally, cheaper and easier funnels such as Patreon, right? So if you have a Patreon where you can have someone pay in just like 5 or 10 or 20 or $50 a month at this lower tier to get access, those end up being communities that you can even later on, pitch to in order to get your more like private high ticket services, right? So if you have a Patreon and you have people in there who are paying at the $5-10 tier, right? I'm going to open up a Patreon for my music. This is another thing that's on my list to do. I'm going to have a Patreon specifically for my work with Arden and the Wolves and Prospertine, right? When I have that Patreon community, let's say I get to a point where I have like 30 to 50 people who are paying me $5-10 a month. Well, there might be people in there in that community who need coaching. I'm not going to be like shitty and pitch them in a pushy sales tactic kind of way because I don't want to be ungrateful for the support that they're already giving me. But I can certainly drop in the group, hey, this is what I'm available for. By the way, you guys, hey, I'll be on my Patreon hangout once a month. I'll be like, by the way, I'm enrolling for the repatterning project right now. That's a separate container from this. It's more exclusive. This is what you get. If you're interested, here it is, right? You don't have to. Again, I'm not being pushy. It's just, ways that I can build an audience and allow people to follow what I'm doing so that if I do have an offer that works for them, then they want to sign up for it, right? I had an offer for this class, for example, that, I have people who follow my Facebook posts. I have people in the repatterning parlor. I have people who are on my email list, right? I might mention it in a YouTube video. I didn't this time around, but I could, right? Whenever I have an offer, I just go to my channels and I say, hey, you guys, this is my offer, right? And then out of that audience, then people, can choose to sign up. All right. So was any of that bullshit?
It's beautiful. I'm actually thinking you're giving me ideas. I'm like, I should probably have a Patreon too. I've always felt like it was for artists or something. But again, as you said, these are all ways you can get in touch with audience and essentially showcase your skill set and let people know, hey, I have an offer. I have a skill set, period. Like people might not even know. You could just be, a friend in the community, but people know you have a skill set. That's the first step. And then creating that audience. And that's how, we talked about earlier, demonstrating, hey, I can, one, trust you because people see you over time. That's important for buying anything. And then secondly, to demonstrate your skill set. And people can see you speaking to whatever your industry is. I was like, oh, this person actually knows what they're talking about. Cool. And now they're building that faith in your skill set and your expertise in your domain. When they do see your offer and there is a price, they're like, okay, well, that makes sense. This person's an expert. And it also, as Arden said earlier, by doing that, it also allows you sort of to practice presenting your gift and your skills and your knowledge base to the world. And it'll help make you more confident to then charge someone for a higher ticket service offering. So yeah, no bullshit. You gave me some golden nuggets there. I'm gonna open a Patreon. That's a great idea.
Dude, I'm so all about you opening a Patreon. That would be amazing.
I'm asking for help. But yeah, that's great.
Talk about power to the people, right? Talk about making that that's incredible like wealth coaching from that, like from the financial sector, like making that available to everyone on a platform like Patreon. Like I'm getting chills just thinking about that.
Yeah, me too. That's it.
Hell yeah.
I'm
I
so
love
glad
it.
I'm here. Yeah, this is awesome.
Maybe we'll be Patreon accountability buddies because I got to
That
make
would
one
be
too.
cool. Yes, 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 yes. Let's do it.
All right, section 5 is pricing and tiering. So how do you know how much to charge? What a great question. All right, I'm going to give you guys the rock star model of accessible price tiering. How can you sell the same service to different people in all kinds of ranges of financial accessibility? This is a great question, right? Well, how do people in the music industry do it? How do they spend money on music, right? Well, there is a free tier. You can listen to the song on Spotify or on YouTube. You might have to listen to some ads unless you pay for the premium service, but you can definitely listen to a song for free, right? You can figure it out. For usually $1.49, sometimes it's $1.29, sometimes it's $1.79, you can buy that song on iTunes or Bandcamp, right? So you can pay something for it if you want to. Then you have a download copy of it. There you go. $20 will usually get you the t-shirt or the CD. Apparently some people still listen to CDs. I wouldn't know. I haven't printed them since 2011, but maybe you do. 2012, was it? Yeah. I didn't print as soon as I had like one EP that I printed to CDs. And then I was like, why did I just spend $1,000 on that? Nobody bought any. So, but some bands still do, especially if you're touring across places where people still drive cars. They often love to put CDs in the cars. So you could buy the t-shirt or the CD for $20, right? For $50, you can buy a ticket to a show and you're going to hear that same song. For $1,000, and I'm just making up these numbers, but I think you can kind of see that they're like, they're roughly, they're decent averages, right? But for probably like $1,000, you could buy a ticket to the show. Plus, you could get a special VIP meet and greet, right? Those are those, before, after the show, stand for a photo with your favorite rock star and get to say hi, et cetera, right? For $1 million, you could probably hire that artist to sing at your wedding, right? I heard, this was years ago, but I heard that J-Lo was hired to sing at a wedding in like Ukraine, I want to say, for like $1 million, right? And that's where
I believe it.
Yeah, that's where they actually make a lot of their money. They're not going to promote that on their social media, right?
They really do. My time, so I mean, while I was in New York, I enjoy nightclubs a lot. Like I spent a lot of time in nightclubs, and that was something that I discovered in that world, because every now and then the nightclub would be closed, and some like 13 or 14-year-old child would be having like a bar mitzvah, and 50 Cent was performing for $500,000 and to this for a bunch of 14-year-olds. It's just a kids party with hats and cake, and instead of a clown they had 50 Cent, and he made $500,000. It's like it's more than selling CDs or downloads. So yeah, a lot of artists make a lot of money doing private parties like that. So that's very true.
Right? They might not tell you that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But they do.
And I think that goes to.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that goes. This exactly goes to your point earlier. It's like, who really wants what you have? And I think starting, as you said, start by putting yourself out there. Have some reflection and work with you, Arden, and figure out what it is that you want to bring to the world, and then have some offers like this and know what you can offer certain people, and then go to those places, because some people would desperately like to have that high value private service. And again, there's people who are in that market who want to spend money for a special event in that way, and then there's some people who just want it on iTunes, and just being able to cater to all those and know where to find the different type, as opposed to that toxic stuff we were talking about earlier, where they're essentially telling you like, yeah, pitch everyone on the $1 million offer and force them into it and don't care about anybody else. And it's like, it doesn't work. It's not sustainable. So we'll leave it at that. So yeah, this is great. Fantastic.
Awesome. Yeah, exactly what you said about it not being sustainable, right? If especially if we love what we do, we want to make it accessible to everyone. It's just that not everyone has the money to afford all of our time, right? So it's really about,
and that's all it is. Yep.
It's really just about personal access and how much hand holding someone gets. So I'm going to talk you guys through a couple examples of these because I want everyone to get a sense of how no matter what you do, there is some way that you can break this down and you can do what you do for anyone, from being a broke college student, in broke Gen Z person in this awful economic recession that we're in, to Jeff Bezos. And if you do work with Jeff Bezos, you better charge him triple trillion. So if you're a photographer, right, what can you get for free? Well, you can check out my photos and you can follow my photography tips on Instagram, right? I'm gonna have some followers there because I'm gonna maybe actually, if I'm a photographer wanting to get more clients, I might actually even give modeling tips, right? Because other photographers might follow me, and that's cool. That's not bad, but even more useful, I should talk about tips for models to use. What kind of poses to stand in, or what kind of light to look for, because I might want to build my audience of models who's going to want, or people who want to be models who are going to want my photos. For $100, right? Join a group session of up to 6 subjects, all photographed in the same afternoon. If I'm a photographer and I feel like there's not a lot of people who are booking my more expensive shoots this month, and I decide that I want to just make some extra money this month because I'm having a bit of a dry spell, what I would do is I would find a friend with a nice backyard, and I would say, hey, can I, rent your backyard for a day? Or can I can I buy you and your family dinner or something like that, exchange? I would find somewhere with a nice private yard that I could photograph people in. And I would say, all right, I'm accepting, up to 6 people. And we're going to do this in the span of about, maybe like 4 hours. And you're all going to get a lot of great shots that normally this session like this would have cost you at least $500 for a half-day session. But you're going to be able to get it for $100 because you're going to be splitting the cost with a whole bunch of other models who are there because you're only looking for those couple of shots that you need on a budget, right? I'm not going to come drive to your house and just shoot you for a half hour. I'm just going to say, here's the location. You sign up. There's going to be a bunch of people there and everyone is going to get some really dope photos taken, right? That is what I would do if I were a photographer and I was like, wow, I want to make $600 on a Saturday, right? There it is. $500 will get you a half-day session with 50 edits, right? I'm just making up these prices, but this is roughly about what the range might be. $1,500, right? If you have $1,500 to spend, I will give you a full day session of photos, and you'll also have a hair and makeup stylist included, and you'll get 100 edits, right? I would go and hire a hair and makeup person for someone somewhere probably around $300. I don't know what their day rate is, but I would figure that out. And I would budget that into the overall package, because if someone has more money to spend, I will outsource what I need to outsource in order to make this a more luxury VIP package so that I can charge more for it, right? For $3,000, all right, I'll come shoot your weekend wedding or your corporate event, right? Because if it's a wedding or it's a corporate event, you can probably afford a higher price tag, right? Or $10,000 for a commercial magazine shoot. I don't know how you would negotiate that. That's not my job to know. I'm not a photographer, but I assume that that's probably, if you're shooting something for Harper's Bazaar or Vogue magazine, they're probably going to be paying you in the 5 figures, I would assume. If you're a music producer, right? So here's another one. If you're a music producer, for free, you can follow my content on YouTube, right? I'm going to make some videos about how to produce your tracks and some cool tips and tricks for upcoming artists who self-produce, right? For $20 a month, you can join in my Patreon and participate in Hangouts where I give feedback on artist tracks. So every month you can submit your new track. If you pay $20 a month to join my Patreon, then, once or twice a month, I'm going to hop on and I'm going to go through in 2 hours. I'm going to listen to as many tracks as I can get through from the people who submitted them to me. And we're going to do this live. I'm going to play your track in front of all the other paying followers. And I'm going to give some feedback on the tracks that I hear. I'm going to listen to these and I'm going to give my constructive feedback on how I think you could make your tracks even better in the future, right? If I'm someone who's self-producing my own music on a budget, hell yeah, I would do that, because I'd be wanting to follow along, seeing what they say about everyone else's tracks too. And of course, I also want mine evaluated. And I want my track played in front of the whole group. Of course, I'm going to pay $20 for that experience, right? $500, hire me to record a basic demo of your song. All right, if you're just looking for a drum track and some, guitar, all right, cool. I got you. You're on a budget. You just want to have something to show your family and friends. Cool, right? For $2,000, hire me to fully produce a song on my computer, right? So this is, I'm assuming it's like, all right, I'm going to bust out Ableton. I'm going to do a whole bunch of, stuff on the computer, but I assume you don't need something fancy like live drums or guitar or whatever. It's just going to be electronically produced. Again, I'm making this up, but this is a possible offer. For $3,000, you get a fully produced song, and I bring in one of my guitarist friends who can play guitar to like shred a really awesome solo, or we can get live drums on the track. It's going to make it that more live organic feel. If you're spending at the $3,000 level. $12,000 will get you a fully produced EP. That's 5 songs with a guitarist and plus album artwork for $12,000, right? And what do I do? Out of that 12,000, I'm also going to hire that guest guitarist, and I'm going to hire someone to do the album artwork, because I might not do album artwork as a music producer. That's fine. But my client doesn't want to have to worry about finding someone. They want me to choose someone who's going to make something really dope for them that they can trust, right? Because they're paying me money to create the experience from them. Seeing one question come in. Carolyn says, seems like a lot of the examples you're giving here are information products. You can write a book or produce a song, and then once it's done, you can sell it to. But if I paint a mandala stone, I can only sell that once. Is there any way to scale up your business when you're producing a physical product? Yes, absolutely. You can sell prints of that mandala, right? You can sell the original for a certain price, but you can sell a print for for a different price. A greeting card also for a different price. My mom is a visual artist, and I keep telling her, she's like, I don't want to sell my original artwork. I'm like, okay, that's fine. You don't have to sell it, right? But you could absolutely print greeting cards. You can make posters that people who maybe like follow your Instagram, right? Put up an Instagram and then have a shop that you can have where people can buy prints of that, right? And then if someone wants to hire you to make a mandala stone for themselves, right, then they can hire you to do that. Or you can also teach a class where you're teaching, multiple people on how to make these as well. There might be people who see the art that you're doing, and they also want to be able to do that. So you can also teach classes where you're teaching other people how to also make these, right? So hopefully that's helpful as well. A really good person to look into, and I will put her name in the chat here, is Molly Crabapple. Molly Crabapple is a New York City visual artist who I want to say it was like maybe 2010 or so, like roughly about a decade ago. Yeah. She did this really cool thing where she was like, I don't like the way that gallery shows operate. Gallery shows tend to be like, it's an artist, and then here's all their paintings, which are each like $6,000 a piece, and there's nothing in between. So she funded a gallery show on Kickstarter, and some of the rewards you could get were like t-shirts, prints, posters, etc. You could get a book of all of the things that were. So figuring out ways to make your original art your highest price tier, but then say, like, if you want to buy a photo of all my, a photo book, right? I'm going to make a self-published book of photos of all the mandala stones that I make, then you can buy that for maybe that's like a really nice coffee table for like $50, right? You can buy a poster for like 10 or 20. You can buy the set of greeting cards, making your art into different types, different price, different tiered forms, and especially building your audience of people who love to follow you. Because I guarantee, like, something that is as peaceful as mandala stones, right? It's like that really peaceful, really like beautiful geometric artwork. There's gonna be a lot of people who are gonna be like, those are gonna make the perfect greeting cards for when I want to send like a blank card with like a really nice general spiritual well wish, but I don't want it to be like a birthday card or something like that, and I want it to have some really cool artwork on it. Here's this artist I follow on Instagram, and I can buy like a 20 pack of greeting cards featuring her artwork. I would be totally into that. So yeah, I would look into Molly Crabapple for specifically the kind of tiers that you can do, but that is for sure possible, right? Also things like Google Hangouts, right? Things like, hey, we're all gonna jump on and paint together. We're gonna, I'm gonna hop on live, and you can see, like, you could make a whole Like you could be like the new female Bob Ross, right? You could do something along those lines. And then you could also
Yes, yeah.
and you could even at that point you could do like a mandala painting party, right? You could be like, hey, I'm going to provide all the paints, and I'm going to provide a space where we can make these, we can make these, and you're going to have all the supplies that you need. And you're not going to have to worry about spilling the paint everywhere. There's going to be sheets out. That way you're not doing this at home where, your 2-year-old is going to be knocking things over. At that point, you're almost providing a service for people who just want to have that experience, to feel good about like
Right.
doing some
Yeah.
crafts. Yeah. Chris, do you have anything else about like a physical art product?
That was great, and I like the sort of reprints. Um, is a really good one, and then I was going to suggest training people to make them as well, and then doing custom commissions. So again, all different stuff. But yeah, you covered it quite thoroughly, I would say. But yeah, there is a bunch of different ways to go about it, and I think everyone should go through, again, whatever industry you're in. Start from free, have like, again, as Arden has here, like 6 tiers to something, to your, how do I make $30,000 in a month? Have that, that product as well. And it's really helpful. And then you you'll refine them, but it's a good, just sketch it out. Like, what could I do? And again, we just did it for, who just asked that question?
Carolyn?
There's a Carolyn, yeah.
Yeah.
But you just would say, again, that's so helpful. Like, and now you're like, all right, wow, there's so many different things I can do.
Cool. Awesome.
Oh, great,
Yeah.
Carolyn. Yeah,
And
glad
feel
you got it.
better for
Yeah, feel
sure.
better. Yeah.
Yeah. And with
But
those
yeah, I'm glad
commissions
that was
too,
helpful.
I think Chris, or sorry, I think Carolyn, I think you were saying in the beginning that you also were doing oracle reading. So could you imagine if you had like a VIP day where someone, okay, that was someone else. Well, it was a good idea, so I'm just going to pretend. But if that is something that, or I thought, okay, someone else said something about doing oracle reading and I got my wires crossed. But if that were something that, like, let's say that we're, talking about like combining skills, right? Then what someone would be able to do is say, I'm going to have a VIP day where we drop in and do a really nice deep oracle reading and figure out like where your energy is at, and what kind of colors you need in your personal monolith stone that I'm going to paint for you. That could be like your super big, valuable drop in, is not just the product, but also the experience that they get with you as the artist.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So the repatterning project, this one is mine, right? For free, you can follow my content on YouTube. For $700, and this is not launched yet, but it's going to be soon. Although I think it's up on Teachable now, so I just have to get it up onto my website. For $700, I am soon launching a self-study download version of the repatterning project, right? This means you don't get access to a container. It's completely, for me, it's just passive income, right? But it does make this material more accessible if you can't afford the $2,000 for the live online course container, right? For $2,000, we all get in the boat twice a year. We get in the boat together and we take that journey together, and people's lives just, change in wildly dramatic manners. Magic starts popping off for them left and right, etc. So for that container, right, where you get access to me and those lectures live, and the group calls where everyone gets to hive mind and also do laser coaching and pick my brain, that is $2,000 for the repatterning project live online course container. For $3,000, you can get that live online course container plus a package of 5 private sessions. Remember, I said that I sell individual sessions to my repatterning project graduates for $250 a piece, right? Well, if you're willing to invest in 5 of those sessions up front, then that goes down to $200 a piece for a total of $1,000. So $200 plus $2,000 for the course plus $1,000 for that set of 5 VIP private sessions. It's going to be $3,000. For $8,000, it's 4-month one-on-one work. Basically, if you don't want to be a part of the container, if you're like, you know what, I am a Silicon Valley executive and I don't want to be in the live online course container with all these people that I don't know, because I'm going to be talking about all my personal trauma. So then, I would rather pay a lot of money and do this work with you privately. Cool. That's wonderful. It is 8,000 upfront for that 4-month one-on-one container where I teach you the repatterning project. You also get weekly sessions and you get everyday support by Voxer, right? If you want to be able to shoot me a voice memo, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon because you've had a trigger come up for you, then if you have paid for that $8,000 package, you can do that. If you're in the $2,000 course, you're going to have to post about that in the 24/7 Facebook group, and I'll get to that post when I can, or you can bring it to the group call that we do once a week, right? This is, again, it's personal access that makes the difference between these price tiers. For $20,000, I'll just create a private repatterning project course container for your whole startup team, right? If you want everyone to have all their shit sorted out and not be in a whole ton of drama when you are getting into your startup, man, if you're starting up a startup, let me tell you, if you know who your team is going to be, taking 2 months to do the repatterning project before you do your startup could make the difference between whether your company succeeds or not, because a whole bunch of people, are or aren't in all their fight, flight, fawn, faint, freeze responses, trying to communicate with one another about how they're going to run their business. So if you're making a startup, I highly suggest that's something that's going to help you out a lot before you dive in. And Chris, why don't you tell us about your 6 different tiers that you
Yeah.
have in your own business, the Wealth Architect?
Yeah, exactly. My free one, I do a monthly masterclass to teach a very broad-based subject that I think will help as many people as possible. The next one is next Saturday, May 29th. Again, if you want to text me, I'll send you the link so you can join next week. My phone number is 917-545-1128. I'll put it in the chat a little bit later. So again, I do monthly free masterclasses. So that's my free product that I share every month. The next is my champagne budgeting system, and that's self-study plus a weekly group call to teach people how to make financial decisions and incorporate them into their life, and that's like $297 per month. I have a $497 per month product, which is an investment strategy call. So every week we have a group call and we discuss investment strategies, things that I think make sense to invest in. And it ranges everything from, real estate, crypto, the typical stocks, bonds, things of that sort, 401ks, tax strategies, things of that sort, but anything about investing money. Then I have a $997 per month, which is being a personal wealth advisor. So if you just want me as your consigliere on money, and again, you want to have that privacy and you want to do it one-on-one, then that's the perfect option. And my goal is to drive your wealth and make you wealthier, find new incomes. And sometimes it is coaching on how to start a business, also how to get a raise, and again, where to put your money in and invest it so that you can live the life that you want to live. Next, $14.97 per month is a 3-month credit blitz. That's my SCORE program. It includes the champagne budgeting system, and it's really focused on improving people's credit scores very quickly. Usually, about 100 points on their credit score in about a month is sort of a very reproducible rate. Obviously, everyone is different, but 3 months we could really blitz any credit issues and then help people refinance, say their mortgage or their car, or refinance their credit cards, which normally will save them. If you have a mortgage, that'll easily save you $20,000 to $100,000 just by a 50-point credit boost. So it pays for itself very quickly after the 3 months, and that's self-study plus several weekly group calls. And then finally, $3,497 per month. This is sort of my $30,000 a month project, is a fractional CFO and wealth advisor, and that we meet weekly, and I essentially run the finances of your business and show you and sort of act something of like a business coach, but specifically focusing on how to make a business profitable and keep it profitable and grow healthfully. And that's really helping people who obviously have some start or initial business, but as they scale, a lot of times people make a mistake going from just being a freelancer or a solopreneur to actually running a business and a company that, maybe has staff and so on and so forth. And a lot of people make mistakes, a year or so in. And so again, you have your own CFO on your team to help you navigate your fledgling business and bring it up into the big league. So yeah, those are my 6, and they're always on offer for anyone I speak to.
I love it. So good. Think about how amazingly a company would do with you as their CFO, right?
Yeah. I pick out all the waste, and again, being very numbers oriented can direct people to sort of the wind flows or the currents that are going to bring them the most money for a business. Because again, I'm not very much a creative, and so partnering with people, you know, a CEO or any business owner is very much a creative type journey or task. You know, the CEO of an engineering company is still a creative. You know, if you think of like an Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, you know, very engineer focused people, but still creative in their vision of what tools and gadgets they can bring to the world. Someone like myself can help you say, hey, well, make this Tesla model before you make that model, because that's going to make a lot more money. And then it's going to, in year 5 or 6, you can start making the Tesla trucks, and then we'll do that, even though that might be what you want to do first. So that's kind of the benefits that I bring to a business, and make sure it stays on a railing that's going to get to the growth and the success fastest and efficiently. So
I love it. So good. All right. So you're going to want to start with the place that you're most comfortable, right? So you want to eventually build out to where you're going to have at least 6 of these, right? You're going to want an offer. Again, you're going to want something that's free for someone to be able to just like look at and engage with your work so they know what it is that you do, right? You want something that is going to be for that college student on a budget, and you want everything in between up to, if you're pitching a billionaire, right? I once gifted one of my millionaire friends a session with someone that I worked with who was amazing, but was working with people on my budget. And she said to me rather, she goes, I would have to raise my prices just to make him feel comfortable. Right. But she knew that intuitively, right? Because if you have someone who is working with that much money and you're going like, oh yeah, I charge, $250 a session. They're like, what, are you kidding? I sneezed $250 over lunch. This is like, are you sure your work is worth it? Do you even know how to work with people like me who throw around these big numbers all the time? If you can't empathize with me in my situation, then I don't know if you're right for what I'm hiring you for, even if you're not working with money specifically. Because even if you're, say, a spiritual coach, if I'm throwing that big money around, I need to know that you can empathize with my energy spiritually, because you need to know the struggles I'm facing on a daily basis in order to be able to tap in and be able to help me, right? So where are you going to start, right? You're going to start with one that is comfortable. For me, I started with my group container. Before I did the self-study and before I started working with people one-on-one, I wanted to make sure that all of my material worked. So just intuitively, I started teaching the repatterning project. I started out, it was $497. And then the next time it was $997. And then it was $1497. And finally, it's just $2,000. And I do offer scholarships for 50% off to those who really need it. If there's someone who wants to do it for $1,000, who really wants, it's like Arden, I can't quite afford $2,000, but you have to be able to afford $100 a month. And I will make a 10-month payment plan with you for $100 a month for $1,000. If you can't afford that, I don't want to be offensive. It's like, I'm not shaming everyone, but you aren't in the place. You probably don't have enough financial security to be able to have the foundation of somatic safety that you actually need to pop the hood and look at all your patterns. So if you don't, I'm actually doing you a favor by putting that threshold there. You need to be able to at least pay $100 a month. If you can't work on that first, watch some of my free videos, and then we'll get to, when you're ready to do the full course. So that said, what is a comfortable rate? So a comfortable rate is high enough that you're excited about it and low enough that you're not paralyzed about pitching it, right? That's it. I wish someone had taught me this when I started out, because all of this start premium, stay premium stuff actually meant that in the 2 years since I learned that, to fast forward to now, when I actually have all my rates and I'm rolling out all of my different offers and putting everything up on my website, in that 2 years, I was ashamed to put forth a rate that did not look premium, because then other people in my industry were going to judge me for playing small or having my rates too low. It was dumb. It was a total waste of time. I absolutely could have been working with people in between at a rate that felt comfortable for me. So what is a comfortable rate? A comfortable rate is high enough that you're excited about it and low enough that you're not paralyzed about pitching it. When do you know when to raise your rates? You raise your rates the minute you start thinking, ugh, another client, right? So we had someone in here with a quality problem, right? Was that Sydney? I can't remember who
Yeah,
it
I
was.
think so, right. I think it
Yeah.
was Sydney, yeah.
Yep, Sydney says that's me. Yeah. So the minute that you're like, oh, I have too many clients and this feels draining, I don't want to work, right? That's the minute that you raise your rates, because then you have a smaller amount of clients who can afford your services, and you are being compensated more, so you are receiving more energy for the services that are, that right now you're being drained by making it for as low as your rates have been, right? So for people who want to get started and they're like, not feeling confident about charging, I have some photographer friends who want to start charging money who aren't confident about charging money yet, right? And I've told them, I'm like, just charge $100, right? $100 for an afternoon photo session is an absolute steal, right? But there are absolutely people out there who will be like, that's a steal. I will pay that $100 for that session. And then guess what? It's going to be about 3 weeks before you're like, fuck, I'm tired. I have all these $100 shoots. Oh man, right? All of a sudden I'm making money doing what I love, but oh my gosh, I'm tired. There is no better way to tire yourself out of charging a rate that is too low than by doing something at that rate until you're tired of it, right? For me, I made a program that was going on a year ago called the ARC, and it was by donation, right? It was great. It was a wonderful step in my own process, and it was very helpful for, I think, a lot of people. But I realized that doing a donation only container, like after I was done with it, I was like, okay, that's it. I have cured myself of I have cured myself of pricing work this low, because it got to a point where it was draining. I'm glad I did it then. I was very happy about it. It was a great program, but I definitely learned that if I'm having donation only rates, there's going to be people who only pay $5 and then, don't follow the rules in the group container, or end up, not bringing their best selves to the container. People who, can only afford like a $10 donation, who are like, can you get my husband on the line to Venmo you? And I'm like, no, you have to figure it out. I can't, this 10, you're paying me $10 to enroll you. You can talk to your husband yourself. Here's my PayPal address. You figure it out. Right. So when you get to the point where you're like, oh my gosh, this feels draining, then you raise your rates, and you're confident to raise your rates because you know that the lower rate does feel draining, and it does feel unfair, and it does feel like you're not being compensated enough for your efforts. So go ahead and set those low rates. If it helps you to set just anything, you can always raise your rates later. And that is why I build into your offer, when we're talking about it, I build into that offer the fact that, hey, this is just an introductory rate for a testimonial. And that's also saying, hey, this is an introductory rate that I feel comfortable charging until I do this a couple times and I get my sea legs, because then I know I'm going to want to raise my rate. So I'm not going to say this is my rate. This is not the final rate at which I'm valuing my work. It's an introductory rate. So I can work with a couple people, start getting confident, and then that rate is going to go up very soon, right? We charge an introductory rate because it's basically saying like, give me a break. I'm just getting started. Don't be too mean to me. I will give you a discount. Help me to like get comfortable working you through this process. Help me get comfortable in my sea legs as a service provider. And as a result of that, I'm going to give you a discount. And also, I'm not going to be starting out forever. So, hey, everybody, in a couple months, this rate is going to go up, right? So rather than start premium, stay premium, just be comfortable, right? Sorry, Chris, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, and I was gonna say, did you get?
Oh, there you are.
That's so important to do, and just know that you can always increase your rates, right? And again, it's always, starting that way and having say, this is my introductory rate. I'd also like this rate plus a testimonial is a great combination. And then just knowing that, hey, as your time dwindles, as you get more and more clients, you're going to lose time. And at a certain point, you have to have that, those boundaries that Arden was discussing earlier, and know how to have that, and then increase your rates. And what I found, and I did for myself, and again, I have, because I want to help the whole world. I wasn't so good with boundaries, and that's not something that, that's something I needed to work on, and found that creating more product lines, and then that those tiers, that's what really drove me to have so many different levels. And so, like, for Sydney, I know you're in a type of therapy. So yeah, I think, maybe, if you're dreading your inbox, having some sort of, like an audio or video course where you talk people through some of the basic issues. And
Boom.
I see you're mentioning things about insurance and things like that. Yeah, having sort of a first step, sort of a low tier offer that you can provide people, that's maybe some, video training or audio training, or like some workbooks and sheets to go through as a first step for, again, some low, fixed dollar amount. And then they essentially can graduate to hiring you hourly. And then in that, you can have a question about, hey, do they have insurances and things of that sort. So yeah, there's a number of ways to balance that, but sometimes increasing your rate and then also coming up with a lower rate, sort of, easier to provide, less of your time offer, which essentially maintains your sort of hourly rate, or sort of the amount of money it costs to have your full attention. And then group training. I've moved to group training as well. And a lot of times people find that just as helpful, and sometimes even more so, because they can learn from others.
Yeah, that's spot on. Also, I would say Nicole LaPera, the holistic psychologist on Instagram. I believed, I don't know her personally, I just follow her work, but I believe she no longer even works with private clients. But she just came out with her book recently, How to Do the Work. And there's all kinds of people that her work is helping, even from her free Instagram and from her book as well. So yeah, it's the old model where you can only work with one person at a time is,
Right.
there's going to be places where that's appropriate, right? But at the same time, there are also other ways that we can add into that. A book proposal. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Books are great. Books are really, really good. All right, so this money mapping exercise, I also want to be conscious of time, but I want to make sure that I'm not rushing through everything at the detriment of the material, but I do want to make sure we have all the time that we have for our Q&A. So this is a little money mapping exercise that I did actually at the end of last month, because I was like, oh, I've been entering into a bit of a dry spell. I've got, July, the next repatterning project starts again. I'm going to open up registration for that in June, but wow, my May is a little bit dry. I don't have a whole ton of extra one-on-one clients. People seem to be taking like a little bit of a break or whatever. Like, I just don't have a lot going on. So I sat down and I made this. I was like, all right, I know that I'm someone who's talented, and I know that I have a whole bunch of things that I'm rolling out and I'm launching. So let me just get clear on all the ways that money can come to me. I took a coaster and I traced a little circle onto a piece of 8x11 paper. I actually have it right here still. And I wrote down all the different ways that I could think of that I could possibly get money, right? So these are for me, yours are going to be different likely, right? But I was like, all right, well, I could monetize my YouTube. I'm going to have merch sales. I'm going to have t-shirts on my site. So that's one way. I could get a book deal, right? One-on-one clients, I could sign some more of those. I could sign up some group container clients. I could, book sales. If I choose to self-publish my book rather than go with the traditional publishing book deal, I could make book sales that way if I wanted to. Passive course downloads, those will be up on my site soon. Music licensing, I could write a song and have Chanel pick it up for $450,000. That happened to somebody who I don't know, but I know a person who knows them. I know a producer who has worked with them, right? That is something that could happen to me. It might seem a little far out right now, but I'm going to write it down because I want it to happen, right? Music sales, that's also from like streaming and everything like that. Bandcamp, that's another way I can make money. It's probably not going to be a lot of money realistically, but I'm still going to write it down because it all adds up. It all goes somewhere. I can make a Patreon. That's also something I'm going to be doing. Plain old luck. I wrote that down there because who knows? I could find a 20 on the street someday. Am I going to lock myself out from thinking about that being, whatever? It's going to, I could take a scratcher at the lotto and who knows what's going to happen. I probably won't. I don't usually buy them, but as my magic teacher, Grant Morrison, says, if you sedulise for a lottery win, make sure you buy a ticket. One-off classes and workshops and limited time offers such as discount coaching or tarot readings. I don't really offer tarot readings on my site. It's not the way that I chose to go, but I can do them. So if there's a time that I'm like, hey, I could stand to have a little extra money this month, then I could say, hey, this month only I'm offering tarot readings. This is a limited time offer. If you've been wanting to work with me, but you don't want to do the whole repatterning project, you just want to have, an hour or so where I pull some cards and we talk about your life, then great, I'll do that this month. Right? So if you haven't already guessed, this month was a little lean for me. So guess what I did? I did a one-off work. I made this thing. First of all, I made this chart and then I said, all right, here's a one-off class and workshop and also a limited time offer. This is where I feel like it's going to be the most profitable for me to make money this month, since I was like, I really don't want to have to dip into my savings for my expenses this month. I want to be able to make enough that I'm just paying, I'm not like going into the red at all, especially because I'm also still paying for music and I'm using everything that I have to put toward that end. So what did I do? I came up with an idea for a one-off class or workshop. I came up with this idea because actually Chris had contacted me a week or two before and said, hey, I'm going to be teaching a workshop on home ownership. Would you reach out and share it with some of your networks? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Of course I'll do that. So I posted it in the repatterning parlor, right? But I was like, oh, Chris said that basically he's looking for more opportunities to get in front of other people's networks. I wonder if he would help me teach a money class. I don't know if I feel confident teaching a money class all by myself, but I certainly have learned, but this is like, again, then I sat down to like put all the slide decks together. I was like, shit, I've got like 44 slides or something like that.
I think you're good without me, but I'm delighted to be here. This is very fun.
I'm still so happy you're here. I'm still, and maybe you were my magic feather, Chris. Maybe it was like, I didn't think I was going to be able to do it until I knew that you were going to be at my side, calling me out on all potential bullshit. And then I had the confidence to do it. So either way, it worked out. But that's what I did. Basically, I said, you know what, I could teach a one-off workshop on, I was like, I'm already talking to my photographer and musician friends about how to do this kind of work. I can make this class. I can advertise it. And I'm going to charge $100 for it, which is like a solid amount of money, but it's not a crazy amount of money. It's for an afternoon workshop for the value of the information people are going to be getting in here. I feel good about it. I feel like this is going to be a positive. I feel comfortable with this rate, right? This doesn't feel, charging something like $250, I was like, that feels a little uncomfortable, right? Charging something like $50, I was like, no, that feels draining. $100, I was like, I can sell this workshop for $100. This will be worth my time. And I'm also going to make a limited time offer by offering some discount coaching sessions to people who are in this workshop only, right? And that way I, likely drum up probably like, I've probably made, if a couple of people who like say that they're going to sign up for the thing are going to sign up for the thing, then I've probably covered pretty much all of my monthly expenses today. Awesome, right? I mean, it took me some like writing a lot of copy about it and figuring out what I was going to do and about 6 hours to make this big old slide deck, but it was worth it, right? So if you're stuck and feeling like I need to know where some money is going to come from me, you can make a chart like this. You're going to see it all in front of you. And full disclosure, what I did afterwards was I made a sigil because I practice magic. I'm not going to get into sigil magic in this class, but if you're interested in learning that, there will be other classes where I will teach you sigil magic, such as myths and magic, which I do twice a year. Just wrapped it, but I'll be doing it again in the fall. So if you do want to learn that, you can stay tuned. But I made a sigil out of the statement, all obstacles are removed from all pathways for money to come to me in an aligned manner that supports my highest good and abundance. And I made a little sigil out of that statement, and I put a candle right in the center of that circle where I had it, and I burned that candle down, and I was like, all right, this is my spell that I'm casting. Well, immediately someone I had paid for a service came back and said, hey, I'm not going to be able to do that this month. I'm going to refund you your money. So I was like, oh, there's some coming back to me right away. I went that night and I parked in a parking spot, and there was a quarter that was stuck in the parking meter that I pulled out, and I was like, all right, this is not exactly what I meant, but I know it's working, right? So
Plain
anyway.
old luck. That's that plain old luck.
Plain
pathway.
old luck, right? I could find a quarter in a
money
parking
from all the pathways. All the pathways. We don't judge.
Exactly, right? It's however it's aligned, right? As long as it's ethical and it's not harmful to me or other people, then let it come, right? Let it come to me. So that's how I knew that it was starting to work, right? And now we're a couple weeks in, and I've, made a number of I made plenty of money from other pathways as well, not just something like getting a $50 refund and finding a quarter in a parking meter. That was great. That let me know that the universe heard me, right? But now it's been coming in more as well, which is great. So anyway, you can make a chart for yourself like this. You can light a money candle if you want, if you're magically inclined, and open up those pathways and basically say, all right, all these ways that I have brainstormed for money to come to me, you can come to me, right? It's a great way to open up your mind about it. And then I'm just going to go really quickly because I know we're a little bit over and I want to take a little bit of a break. I can also go a little past 3 today for more Q&A. So that way, hopefully we'll still get to everyone. But like I said, I always make a lot of material and then I end up speeding through it. So I'm just going to keep going and try and wrap this up quickly. So turning your sales script into an intake process. This is about how to not be weird on the phone, right? Here's some things that your business coach may tell you to say on the phone. If you achieve that goal, how much would it be worth to you? It's not a bad question. What is it costing you not to take action on this? Oh, how are you severely screwing up your life by not spending this money on me? Even worse, what is it costing your loved ones that you're not taking action on this? Your parents are disappointed in you. Your kids are all sad. You're failing your wife and family, right? This is the kind of stuff that they want you to say. And it's just like, it's designed to make people feel shitty. Oh, well, I can't do this thing. Oh, really? Well, where else in your life is this showing up, right? I'm just going to make this is your problem that you're not going to sign up for my program. Where else are you not taking, where else are you not taking your dreams seriously? Where else are you hesitating before you're leaping or whatever the crap they say is, right? If your dog needed surgery, well, yeah, if your dog needs surgery, I would hope you would spend that $90.97 on your dog who needs surgery and not on a shitty coach selling you a business coaching program, right? Or if you can't make a decision, I'll make it for you. And it'll be no, because I need you to take a stand for yourself when I do. Yeah, there's an easier way to say that. And it's just like, hey, if this is not the right time, just like, no worries. There we go, right? You don't need me to make people feel bad on the phone, right? So the funny story that I bookmarked, a million years ago when we started this workshop was I went to this business coaching seminar, and the guy who was facilitating it was like him and his right-hand man just totally blew up the seminar by ramping everyone up into this state where they were in this emotional high, everyone feeling very vulnerable, people crying at the microphone, fainting at the microphone, running back to, hand their credit cards over for $65,000 to their platinum capital loan table that they have in the back of the Marriott ballroom. It is like the tensions are high, people, our neural networks are like connected like Wi-Fi, we're all feeling that tension in the room. And then one of his dudes breaks shit on stage, starts yelling at the audience, breaks an easel, throws a flower vase across the stage and starts stomping into the audience, getting red in the face, being like, I'm fucking done playing small. I'm gonna take my credit card. I'm a man with purpose. I'm gonna. And every woman in the audience, some men too, turn white as a ghost Because all of a sudden we're in this vulnerable state where we're like, oh, yeah, okay, we're following you. And then boom, we get yelled at. And I'm there having a PTSD flashback to my abusive childhood, which is not what I paid $1,000 for my ticket to sign up for. So when I say that this industry is imploding because people are focusing more on lead generation and pushy sales tactics than on client delivery, right? I already paid you $1,000 to be here for your seminar, and you didn't know how to take care of me. You actually actively triggered me. And I'm not upset about the trigger. I'm upset that I paid money and you did this and you didn't know how to handle me better. And you're trying to enroll me in a really fucking expensive program when you can't even take care of me as a $1,000 client. So this is the story that I love telling about this. To make my point, I didn't really think that this person was necessarily going to go for it. But basically, they came back and they said, oh, well, we're not going to take any more shares about what happened before we all broke for lunch and left the whole room to like collect itself. And all the trauma informed facilitators are going around from person to person holding this, somatic space for them and like, Sherpaing each other through their PTSD responses on the lunch break. This for sure happened, by the way. It was really shitty. So I said to this person, this facilitator, I said, yeah, I would love to take you up on your offer of a phone call afterwards, and he made me wait around for 6 weeks. And I was like, good, I want you to feel how shitty this was. And everyone, coming at you and saying what a bad job you did, which absolutely they did, which was warranted. So 6 weeks later, I got him on the phone and I was like, well, hey there, how have your last 6 weeks been? He's like, oh, Arden, everyone's throwing all their unconscious wounding at me. And, like Brene Brown says, if you're not in the ring, then you shouldn't be throwing stones or whatever. I did my best. I'm like, I'm sure you did do your best. It's okay. I'm on this phone call today to be able to help you, right? So I just have a few questions to ask you. If you felt that you were equipped to run your events in the future in a way such that something like this would never ever happen again, how much would that be worth to you? Now, what is it costing you not to take action on solving this problem? Because I heard about 5 or 6 people there were going to sign up for your $65,000 program and they rescinded their commitment cards after that fell apart. Wow, that's like, oh my goodness, that's almost $500,000 there. That's costing you a lot not to take action on this, huh? So where else in your life is this showing up that this is costing you? And like, finally, so he's like, fine, Arden, it'd be priceless. It'd just be priceless. Hit me with it. And I'm like, great. I've put together a team of me and 2 of my most trauma-informed people, and we're going to come in and we're going to show you how to hold space for people and not re-traumatize them into their PTSD responses. And I think it's a steal at $60,000. I mean, that's $5,000 less than what you were charging, and it's almost, that's only like 10% of the money you lost. Anyway, he was like, I'm going to take a trip to Costa Rica and blow you off as I'm getting off the phone. So that's how I knew, that's how I solved for myself. The business coaching industry is all full of shit. So anyway, the sales script didn't even work on the guy who taught it to me, who obviously needed it. I mean, he was resentful because he knew I was trolling him, but I would have done it if he had said yes. I would have fixed that problem for him right away. So I'm going to tell you what you do want to say instead. So secretly, many business coaches think they're assuming the sale when they're assuming objections, right? They're like, oh, go in and assume the sale, right? But what do they do then? They push you, right? If you're assuming that someone already wants to work with you, there's no reason to elicit states that make them feel bad. There's just no reason to do this whatsoever, right? So anyway, all those people are hypocrites. I've solved this now, right? I went in, I used the sales script on the dude who taught it to me for a problem that obviously needed solving, that he lost a lot of money on, and he still didn't take my work. You know why? Because he probably wanted someone who was more seasoned in the field. I told him I thought I was supposed to start premium, stay premium. Isn't that what you told me? Anyway, so yeah, don't listen to those people. So we're going to talk about how to actually have a sales script, right? So this is what I use when I get on the phone with people who are signing up for the repatterning project or myths and magic. First thing I want to know is, what is that you like about the course, given your impression of it so far? Like, what do you think this is going to be for you? Based on the posts that I've made, based on whatever you read about it or the videos you watched, what is it you like? Why are we on the phone right now? That's helpful to me because then I know if my marketing is actually saying the things that I hope it's saying, right? Second question I ask, what would need to happen that would make it a success for you? This is how I know how to take care of the client, right? Some people are going to say like, well, this is a really big investment for me, so I need my whole life to turn around. I'm like, all right, great. That's good, but then we need to be on top of that, right? Some people might say, you know what, Arden, I have some extra money that I have set aside and I just want to be a part of the container and see how it goes. Like, it's not a big deal. I might not even like watch all of the modules or whatever. I just want to be like, I'm like, okay, it's your money. You can spend that. That's fine, right? But then we get to question 3 and I say, tell me how much effort you plan to put in. So if your answer to question 2 was that you need it to do a lot for you, well, then we need to make sure we're on the same page about how much effort you're going to put in. If your answer to question 2 is just like, oh, it's not a big deal, I'll just like hang out and, watch the videos on replay or whatever, then okay, cool. Then no big deal, right? Then I'm not going to worry about how much you're participating because you're just looking to, watch some of the videos. 4, if it works, how will you pass it forward or share your experience with others, right? So this is my way of saying like, I would like for you to also give me a testimonial, but also I want you to think about like how your life is going to be better, right? If I'm going to elicit a state to put you in, I want to put you in a state you're going to feel positive about. And it also shares my values because I do believe that when we work on ourselves and we get to ourselves into a better place, then we can also help more people who are in our lives, right? And finally, I asked, do you have any question for me, right? So this is my friend Samir. Samir is a photographer, as you can see by that camera that's in his hand, right? Samir has one of the best intake processes ever. This is someone who charges $650 for a half-day shoot, which is, it's not like a crazy rate, but it's definitely like, in my experience, it's on the high end for a 4-hour shoot, right? But I hire him. I have hired him in the past. I will continue to hire him in the future because he makes me feel so taken care of. The minute I get on the phone, he calls and say discovery call, right? Some coaches call things discovery calls and they're actually like doing the things that make you feel bad. But this is what he asks, right? What he asks is he says, what does success look like for you with this project? That way, right away, he knows what he has to deliver as a photographer to make you a happy client. By when do you need the photographs? All right, that's going to be important because he's going to need to know to plan. If you've got a deadline, then that's important. Can you send me a mood board for reference so I can see what vibe you'd like, right? So Samir is so on top of this process that the first time I ever shot with him, he actually came back and was like, it was like 11:30 p.m. on the night that I was putting my mood board together that I had said that I was going to get it to him by. And he was like, hey, remember you have only 30 minutes left to get me your mood board. I felt so taken care of. I was like, yes, thank you. No, I'm on it. I'm doing it right now. But the fact that he remembered that was just like, wow, I felt so taken care of as a client. Do you need models? If so, what age, gender, and ethnicity? This is because Samir also shoots for brands, right? So Samir has a tier for brands who also need models, right? Because as a photographer, that's something that, he can't do himself, but he can certainly find the models that he works with and hire them and just charge the brand a flat fee. Isn't that brilliant, right? So he's not going to ask me this when he's on the phone with me because he knows the photos are going to be of me, but he can shoot your product for you and he can even find your models for you. Incredible, right? What platforms are the photos for? He actually asked that because he's like, if it's for Instagram, I'm going to take most of them like this, right? Because Instagram, if they're like this, it makes them smaller. I feel so taken care of by that level of attentiveness. For lighting, what time of day would you like to shoot? Again, thinking ahead, right? What's the location? He also, I didn't put this in here, but he asks, what is the parking like at the location? Like, are you kidding? Like, you can ask me, what is it costing you to not take this action versus asking me, what is the parking like at the location? Oh my God, you have thought of everything. I feel so comfortable. I feel so taken care of. And finally, again, do you have any questions for me? Right? So ask thorough questions about your client's needs in order to make people feel taken care of from the very beginning, and they will feel comfortable and want to work with you. Asking thorough questions about their needs also ensures that you know exactly what to deliver. This is about having a human conversation, figuring out what someone needs, then being like, okay, yeah, I can do that. And guess what? That is going to make you more confident as a facilitator. If we've covered this a little bit, but this is where I officially say it, if there is a part of the process needed for the complete package, Find someone you trust to do that, basically that you don't do yourself, I should have said. Find someone you trust to do that part of the work and outsource it, right? So if you need models as a brand, if you're looking for photos of an ad for your product and you don't have any models, guess what? This photographer can help you find some really great models. He's got a whole list of them, and by age, ethnicity, gender, etc. So there you go. Your client doesn't know how to source this, but you do. My bandmate doesn't feel confident in his mixes yet. He's a great beat maker. He makes great songs. He's a great songwriter. But in terms of mixing, that's a different production skill set, right? But what is he going to do? Hand back an unmixed track to his client? No, he's going to find someone who mixes for a good rate, and probably even go to that person and say, hey, I'm going to buy a package of 10 mixes, right? At the point where he's, able to afford to pay for that up front, you go to someone and say, I've got a bunch of clients who need mixing all the time. Can I just buy a punch card of 10 mixes to use over like the coming 6 months or so, right? Amazing. That would be super easy. Then your client doesn't have to think about it. Remember, they're paying you a luxury rate so that you can do this thinking for them. They don't know what a good mix sounds like. They don't know where to find someone to make a mix, right? They don't know where to find models if they're just, all they're doing is making their product and they need some cool pictures of it, right? And as I said, you can even ask the provider if they'd be willing to sell you a bulk package of their services to use as needed for your clients. They will likely be thrilled. Hell yes, I will sell you 10 mixes up front, and I will take, a 10 or 20% chunk off of that since you're paying up front for all of them, right? What a great idea. When you're confident in your understanding of your client's needs, you will be confident in your ability to provide the service. Anytime during this process that you start to feel insecure, go back to your client's intentions, right? I don't think Samir feels insecure when he's taking photos, but whenever we get to a point where we're like, I don't know what to do yet next, we're in the middle of this 4-hour block of time. What should we do? He goes, hey, let's look at your mood board. I got it right here. I got your Pinterest board. Let's pull it up. Oh, let's do a shot like that, right? I've started doing this in my own sessions with my music producers. If we get stuck in a part of the song, I'll be like, hey, let's go listen to some of the songs I put on the reference playlist. Let's hear some of the sounds that they're using, and let's see if there's any that we want to put into, into ours, right? So anytime, again, this is about the part of creating the container, right? Anytime you start to feel insecure because, oh my God, I'm taking this person's money. Am I doing it the good job? What am I doing? I feel self-conscious, right? You're making it about yourself. Anytime you feel that, it's okay. That's normal to feel that when you get started, but just go back to the client's intentions, which is why it's very handy to ask them that on your discovery call, on your connection call. What will make this a success for you? What is the intention, right? Or what do we want this to look like? By me putting together a reference playlist for the producers I work with and say, I want a song that sounds like these songs. It means anytime we get stuck, we can go back to the reference playlist. Anytime in the middle of a photo shoot we get stuck, we can go back to the vision board, right? That's how you're going to stay connected to your client's intentions and not get up in your head. Finally, and this is the very last section, I promise we're almost done. I know we've gone so over. Testimonials, spreading the word about your work. So if you're starting out, you're going to ask this in your discovery call, right? Ask for testimonials upfront in exchange for an introductory rate. This not only ensures that you'll receive a testimonial on delivery, right? Hey, as long as you like it, you're going to tell people about it, right? You're going to all right, let's work on this together. But it also helps cut any awkwardness you might feel at just getting started. It's your way of saying, I'm still getting my sea legs. I'm going to charge you a pretty really fair rate in order for me to get used to providing a service, right? So we all feel weird about it at first. The testimonials, in order from most useful to least useful, in my, humble opinion. Video testimonial. You have someone on video telling about how they liked your work. That is great. Really, really good. Before and after pictures. Again, if you have a service where you're like, hey, your house was super messy before I got here. And then look at the end of the weekend, oh my God, it's super spotless and organized. Marie Kondo herself couldn't have done a better job. Before and after pictures will be really helpful. Screenshot testimonials. I have people, I ask them, hey, can you write a testimonial on the Repatterning Project business page? Because I will take a screenshot of that Facebook review and put it on my website. It looks better because people are like, oh, that's a screenshot. It'd be harder for me to doctor that screenshot than it would to just write up a testimonial, right? Fourth useful, written testimonial with picture, right? I could write up a testimonial and put your picture by it. That's pretty cool. But I also could have grabbed that picture off a random place on the internet. Who knows if you don't trust me, right? And a written testimonial without a picture, well, shit, I could have just made it up myself, right? So get testimonials and know that not all testimonials are created equal. Those are the ones that are going to be most useful to you. But overall, we are almost there. People will want to continue working with you and will refer you to their contacts if you are able to make them feel good while you're working together and if you deliver on the services you promise. And that's it. So what is it? You make a clear offer. You let people know what you do. You get them on the call. You make sure that you are aligned. You say, what is your intention for this project? You make sure you can deliver. And then throughout working with them, you keep referring back to their intentions. Are we doing this? Are we doing this? Is everything cool? Right? And then you deliver on the product, you collect your testimonial, and then they're like, that was awesome. And I would totally want to refer you to all my friends. I'm going to talk up your service because I had such a great time with you. And you never once made me feel pressured or awful about anything. The end. Chris, did I say anything that was bullshit?
I'm a crystal golden nuggets, a whole jar of golden nuggets. Brilliant. Right. Yeah, exactly. You taught me some things too. I got notes here that I need to act on.
Excellent. Cool. Yeah. Are you cool if we go a little over?
Yeah, I'm good with it. And do some questions.
Cool.
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm good. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, because I want to make sure we have time for Q&A with everyone. So I'm going to stop the share now. Now our slide deck is good to go. I'm going to make sure that, let's see, I want to pin my video, and I also want to pin Chris's video. I was like switching back and forth between them in between because I wanted to make sure the camera was on the person who was talking. So hopefully that came out right. All right, I am going to pause the recording. Let's take a 5-minute break and let's be back at, it's now 2:42 over here. Let's be back at 2:47. Take a 5-minute break, grab water, use the restroom, et cetera, et cetera. All right, welcome back, everyone. Welcome to the Q&A portion. If anyone has questions, you can hop on camera, hop on the microphone. You can type them into the chat, and you can specify if they're for me or Chris or just in general. I see the first question come in from Pam. I'm going to go ahead and read it aloud. I think something that I'm struggling with is feeling like I'm not qualified, fearful of people I know thinking, who is she to offer that? I feel like I'm lacking the confidence to confidently put my offer out there, and also wondering how I will stand out when I feel like there are so many people who offer something similar. This is a great question. So I'm going to go ahead and give you my answer, and then I'm going to let Chris give his answer as well. So the first thing I'm going to say is, if there's people you know who are thinking, who is she to offer that? First of all, they're probably not your friends. So I wouldn't worry about them too much, although I do understand that that's a worry, right? But if someone is literally thinking about that about you, they don't deserve your energy or your attention. You want people in your life who are like, oh, good for her. She's getting started on that thing, right? Even if you're not as good at it as you think you are yet, you're going to offer that introductory rate that feels comfortable. And you're going to say, hey, I'm just getting started offering this. Here's the rate that I'm going to give in exchange for a testimonial. Let me know how I did, right? That is the ethical, sustainable way to go about getting started on something when you don't feel confident, because you're just admitting, you're like, I don't have the confidence to confidently get started, right? And that's fine. But you're saying, hey, I'm looking to practice, right? Totally okay to say like, hey, I'm looking for, some guinea pig people to work with. You can even do this for free if you want. I think you should charge something, because I think it will be very quickly that you find out that, first of all, people who sign up with you for free are often not going to be as dedicated as clients, right? They might not show up to their own sessions because they didn't pay anything for them. So you can offer something for free, but I would encourage you to just offer it at an introductory rate that you feel comfortable with. Also wondering how I will stand out when I feel like there are so many people who offer something similar. Great question. So it's because they like you. When there's a ton of financial planners in the world, right? But I go see Chris because I know I can trust him. because I don't know if I can trust all those other dudes out there, but I know Chris personally. I know, like, we've worked together. He's friends with friends of mine. I've always seen him behave in integrity in every situation he's ever dealt with. So I know when I go to him for money that he's going to help make me feel comfortable. And I'm not going to be dealing with some, finance guy, douchebag, who's either going to like gaslight me or give me like shitty, unsustainable advice, or give me advice that's only meant for like, 7-figure CEO types or whatever. I know I can trust Chris because he knows who I am. I know who he is. And that's why I'm going to work with him. So that's the same reason people are going to work with you. Chris, anything to add?
Yeah, exactly. So going in reverse order, ditto, that's exactly it. Like, Pam, like, I don't even know what your service is, but because you know Arden and I've now spent this time with you, a couple of hours, no matter how many competitors you have, I'm going to hire you first. That's just that's how humans are. They're going to relate with people they know. And, Arden had a whole slide on it as how do you now connect with more people? How do you make friends? How do you build community with more people and have that on offer and have more people know, hey, Pam does X. And now that's just in their head, because I might be going through my day today or tomorrow or whatever have you. And I'm like, oh, someone needs X. I was like, oh, I met this Pam who does X. And she's just getting started, but like, she knows X. So I'm going to introduce you. And because that referral and people trust people that they trust, that's the fact that you have competition shouldn't trouble you. And again, there's so many people who offer financial expertise and advice. And again, I had the same concern, especially since I moved from a place that's very government regulated with licenses and things of that sort. And I have had those, but I purposely got rid of them and let them lapse because I don't want to follow that standard, because I don't think it really serves people. And so now I don't even have all my accreditations anymore. Like, I'm not a licensed investment broker. What will people think when I'm like, I know so much about money, but I can't legally sell you any stocks, right? But when people talk to me, they're like, oh, so you're not going to like try to force stocks on my throat? You're going to just help me, save for my house or send my kids to school or whatever is important to me. And oh, someone told me, I Arden said that she trusts you. Oh, cool. That's going to be your competitive advantage. So you'll do great. And then the other bit on qualified, again, if your industry is X, you probably know more about it than I do. So you're qualified for me, right? And again, there's people that I will go to for financial guidance. Not many people, but there are people. And so that's the thing. And there's some people I can't really help. Like, if Warren Buffett needs help, I'm like, dude, I'm gonna do what you do. And there's certain things along that level, but I know more than, half the population, 90% of the population. And so I'm gonna help those people. And then, I'll keep getting mentored by Buffett and people who are better and know more about money than I do. And I get educated. I actually spent the hour or so before I came here learning from some top and arguably, I think, the best economists in the world that are predicting the next Great Depression that's going to happen in 2030, and educating myself on that. So those guys are educating me, right? And I know enough to know that those people can school me and teach me more about money and economics than I already know. Right. And then I sell my services to people who know less than I do. And it's each one teach one. That's I think that's Mandela. At least that's who I heard say it. And I think that's so great. And again, if you know more than one person in the planet about your field of expertise, cool, then that's your one client. And continue to learn and improve craft, and you'll gain more confidence and teach more people. But I'm pretty sure you probably know more than 99% of the population in what you do. So you have a big client pool.
Nice. Yeah, I agree with all of that. That was dope. So Angela says, what do you think about offering an experience of your service as a body-based coach within the sales call? I find it much easier to actually dive into the work a bit than to just have a dialogue with someone about their goals. I've heard business coaches advise against that. but I'm feeling called to go in that direction. I
Mm.
think if you're feeling called, like, go for it. That does sound like
Yeah.
I'm predicting that you're gonna get tired of it. I'm predicting that you're gonna have a point where you're like, oh my God, I'm doing work with people on these connection calls and I'm feeling a little drained by it because some of them are just taking that energy and they're just, then they're like, thanks, bye, and they're not signing up for anything. So, but I'm not going to advise you against that in terms of sales. Like, you're giving a ton of value on that call already by doing that. I am going to say, check in with your body. And when it starts to feel draining, or when it starts to feel like, oh, people are taking advantage of my, working with them on the connection call, then you're going to know, and you're going to know when to change it.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that's all about, managing your price and your time. So maybe you want to do, again, I don't know if it's possible for your work, but do it in a group setting. So, hey, I'm willing to give, again, like I am next Saturday, I'm going to give about 2 to 4 hours of free guidance. And then I'll do a Q&A, right? And I'm willing to do that. I'm going to teach for free. I'm going to go so far with people for free. And maybe if your work has to be one-on-one, maybe you give people 15 minutes. And, again, do as much as you want. I think what Arden said is go with your gut, and then just be comfortable, revising your methodology. So you may be like, okay, I'll give you 15 minutes or 30 minutes to get you over your first hurdle. Now, I can add value to your life. If you want more, then it's this rate. And now you have your package.
Nice. Yeah. And I love that too, about like doing it in a group as well. Right. Because then you can also, like, you could work with one person and they're like your demo person, for an hour, and then
Right.
everyone gets to see the value that you add. So that's also an option.
Yep.
Julia says, I have a question about how to market when I'm busy and want to stay somewhat anonymous. Will raise my hand to go after Pam and Angela. Yeah. Is that the question, Julia? Or is that, I'm going to scroll through the rest of the comments. Let's see. There you are.
Maybe
Julia.
I think
Julia.
it might be easier to just like say the question.
Go for it.
I'm right. So I work a day job, so I'm pretty busy, and I don't actually really have much marketing out there at all anywhere. So I get some, like, a trickle of, like, mostly like pretty low quality people inquiring about my services. And what I would really like is to have like a small number of like very, very relevant, accurate clients for myself. So I want to have some marketing out there, but I also want to stay like not super like visibly out, both like just for safety considerations, since I work in the sex, and also because I don't really want it to be like, hey, Julia's direct report at work, did you see that Julia's a sex coach? Like, hope you don't feel awkward about that when she's managing you in like a business context. So yeah. And I mean, they're little details, but that is kind of like the essence of what I'm looking to do. And I'd love to know if you have any particular thoughts.
Yeah.
Oh, and actually one more thing that's important is I have ADHD, and I am like, I cannot commit to doing things regularly. Like, I just can't, like, not gonna happen.
Yeah. So I would take your marketing model from high-end escorts, from high-end sex workers. You want to stay anonymous, but you want to have a brand, right? So, for example, she's not a sex worker to my knowledge, but the holistic psychologist, I'm going to use her as an example again, Nicole LaPera. We now know what her name is, and she's appeared with her face sometimes, but her brand was not based on her being a relatable person. Her brand was based on her being the holistic psychologist, and she was, not a face. I don't know when she revealed her face, but the point is she didn't need to reveal her face to do her branding. It's mostly infographics that are on her Instagram. So I would come up with, I would invest, if you have the ability, I would invest in a really good graphic designer who's going to be able to make you some very simple but elegant graphics to put up, maybe with some, some quotes. I would do some cool photography, and I would do it high-end luxury sex worker style, where you don't see your face, and I would come up with a brand name for your brand name of coaching. In fact, I would maybe call myself, sort of like the holistic psychologist does something like that. The whatever it is you are, I mean, I know that you're a sex coach, right? I don't know if it's going to be the sex coach, but the something, something. You are this person, but there is no name behind it. All of your photos, they're very sexy, they're very on brand, but you're going to have, your hair over your eye like this, or, the shadow or the curtain or whatever. And again, because your brand is sexuality, there's nothing wrong with, using a marketing plan that looks a little bit like luxury high-end sex workers, because you are going to be working with people around their sexuality. And if you want for your brand to be sexy and mysterious, that is okay, right? That's totally okay to do that. And yeah, does that, Chris, do you want to add to that? And then we'll make sure that we answer that question.
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, that's what I was going to suggest as well. And then second to that is find sort of partnering businesses and maybe other professionals who would share the same client as you. So for me, for example, I'm very good at helping people improve their credit scores very quickly. Right. So that goes great with anyone who's trying to get a mortgage, because there's no time that your credit score is going to be worth $100,000 to you than when you apply for your mortgage or right after you've done that. So I could be completely brandless and completely faceless, but if every real estate agent and mortgage broker knew who I was and, trusted me like Arden did, and I did some maybe work for them privately for free to essentially get the testimonial, now all that real estate agent is always going to recommend me. It's like, yeah, you never heard of this guy, doesn't have a book, he's my guy, he's the best. And that's actually what I spend a lot of my time. Again, I'm doing my public facing. You'll see me on Saturdays once a month, but most of the time I'm just pinpointing people in particular communities who have my clientele already, and I'm networking with those folks, and now they've got their whole book of clients. So again, thinking of who do people talk to when they also talk to you? What else might they need, right? Maybe it's erectile dysfunction doctors. So maybe you want to, make partnerships with them, or again, whatever makes sense for you. But that's the way I would go. And that's a great way. If you can, if you're going to do, like, I think we were talking to Angela a minute ago, if you're going to give free sessions away, that's like what Arden said. It's like, this is my demo person. But if your demo person is the floodgate to, hundreds of more clients and referrals, and then you can even put them in on the deals, like, hey, anyone you refer to me, I'll give you 10% finder's fee. Now you're really pumping volume to yourself.
Yeah, and I'll say one last thing too about ADHD in particular. I'm not diagnosed. I suspect that I have ADHD. One thing that I have noticed in myself is a reluctance to commit my time ahead of time, because I know I'm going to lose freedom. I know it's going to lock me down. I've actually been thinking about this. I've been giving this a lot more conscious thought lately as I'm rolling out more and more offers, because I'm starting to feel like, oh my God, it's like, is money trapping me? Right. And this really does come down to, do you want, it's like, what kind of freedom do you want? It's like picking your problem. Right. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's just for everyone, they have their own, they have their own comfort levels. I start to get nervous when I'm like, all right, I have to make a bunch of money so I can afford to go on tour. But then how am I going to go on tour if I have all these programs that I'm running all the time, right? I'll figure that out when I get to it. I'll hire someone else to teach one program, or I'll go on tour for a month in between the programs that I teach, or, whatever. I'll figure that out when I get to it. But I bring that up because that's a real issue, but it is one of those things that, like, it's a trade-off, and you just have to figure out where your own comfort zone is with it. Luckily, if you do commit to, things that are going to make you a lot of money in the short run, that will mean more freedom in the long run. And then you'll be able to, outsource things, delegate, and take more time off. But yeah, building a business is one of those things that you might not have to do it as consistently as everyone else tells you to, but it is one of those things where when you sell something, you are then obligated to your clients. And that was why I didn't do it myself for so long, because it was like, oh my God, I'm terrified of responsibility. You mean someone's going to give me money up front? I literally, like, every time before the repatterning project begins, I start getting scared that I'm going to die. And I mean, like, literally, I'm going to get in a car crash, and I'm not terrified that I'm going to die. I'm terrified that everyone's money is going to be in my Stripe account and I'm going to be dead and I'm not going to be able to teach the course. And how are my parents going to figure out how to refund the money to everyone who paid for the course? That's how uncomfortable I am about taking people's money up front. But I have to talk to myself at some point and be like, Arden, if you died, you would have bigger problems, or you would have no problems. You would be dead. They would figure it out. Your life is worth more than, the $2,000 that people are going to pay. And I'm quite certain that Jacqueline, your assistant, would figure it out one way or another. Like, it would be all right. In the wake of your death, someone would figure out how to refund your clients. That's probably, but yeah, you are making commitments when you create a business. Unfortunately, there's no way around that, unless all you want to do is passive income and internet marketing, and then you're committed to your internet marketing, right? It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Tiffany says,
I find
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So yeah, I find for things like that with business, again, because I have, those issues as well, is just partnering it, any things that I might be resistant in doing or that needs to be done, partnering it with something that's just overwhelmingly delightful for me to do. Like when I have to sit and do work for my business that I probably should do every week, but I don't really want to do every week, I go to my most famous, my favorite, famous bar in Austin, and I get myself the most expensive drink, and I'm never gonna not miss an opportunity to go to that place and get a drink. And so I partner things that I'm kind of like, I want to procrastinate that with things that, like, I'll drop everything to do that and cancel all my responsibilities to go do that fun thing. And then that's your immediate reward in the stuff. And so, I play games with myself like that. That helps me.
Nice. Yeah, that actually reminds me of another thing that I do too, which is that if I try and find whatever way, like this is something I teach more in depth in the repatterning project, but essentially, like, I notice that I enjoy making music videos, right? So if I enjoy making music videos, how can I make making videos for my YouTube channel feel as enjoyable as making a music video, right?
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah,
And maybe they're gonna be shorter videos, maybe, so I don't have to do as much, or whatever. Or maybe it's, I'm gonna be more into the aesthetics of them. Dressing up for my videos means I actually I literally have more fun editing them because I like the way I look when I'm editing them, right? So little, like, asking yourself the question of, like, how do I make, like, we're already doing things we love, right? This is a class about how to make money doing what you love. So it's about remembering how to make the things that you love, like, actually the things that you love, which is hard. Like, that sounds like a flip comment, but it's not, because when you're doing them for money, then it can end up being like, oh my God, I don't want to do this anymore. So you have to, it's like a mental hack, but figuring out, like, yep, how can I do this in a way that I'm actually looking forward to it?
Yep. That's it.
So Chris, I'm going to hand off Tiffany's question to you, because Tiffany has a question about when should you set up an LLC and an affordable way to get a website and logo. I think that's Chris Hollywood territory.
Tiffany, let's see. I'm trying to find the question so I can read it.
Tiffany Thiessen says, practical cues. When should you set up an LLC? Also, is there an affordable way to get a website and logos?
I see. When should you set up an LLC? The important time to set up an LLC is really when you are concerned with some type of liability. Like, is it possible for someone to sue you, or how likely is it for someone to sue you? That's really, the most important thing. Setting up another entity just for the sake of keeping your business in it is generally, depending on what you're doing and how big the business is, there's a line that says you probably should start doing it. and you can just be a sole proprietor, right? So you're sole proprietor or you're an LLC, and some people use like an LLC and an S corp interchangeably, but let's just say you're going to make a legal entity that's a business versus you as your business. I like, if you're making 50,000 ish or more from the business in a year, then maybe the business needs to get its own, social security number, which is like an EIN, and be set up as a separate legal entity. Technically speaking, if you suspect there's legal liability, then you want to do that sooner so that doesn't spread into you. And this way, someone can only sue the business. But so that's legal protection is number one thing. The second one is just organizing your finances, right? Like if I was your CFO, just for the sake of good organization and growing your business, I want your business to be its own entity so that it can have its own social security number and get its own, essentially like a credit score and financial reputation, and get its own loans and so on and so forth. So again, if I'm just nurturing and raising the baby business up, eventually it's got to learn to use the potty on its own. So it has to have its own accounts and its own, documents and stuff to say it's official and legal. So I hope that's helpful. Again, it's a guideline. There's no right or wrong answer on that one.
Thank you.
And I like it. Again, if the business is bringing like about 50K, then it probably can stand on its own legs now and needs its own legal reality existence. Affordable way to get a website and a logo. That one I'd probably say is more your bag, Art, and you've probably made more websites than I have.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have heard that, well, actually, I think Eve, our friend Eve, who's Adam's girlfriend, Adam and Eve, and that's their real names.
I know.
Eve basically learned Squarespace through YouTube tutorials, if I remember correctly. Adam has a whole bunch of sites that he builds, and Eve works for the company. And so if you really want to do it on a budget, I think Squarespace and WordPress are the two easiest to learn, and you can figure that out through tutorials. I have a web developer. I do not want to learn how to build a website, at least not at this point. I have a web developer who I met on Facebook, who is a wonderful, lovely woman who, as they say, like, you can get things like good, fast, or cheap, pick two. She is good and cheap. So my website is not up yet, but it's going to be great when it's done. And it's definitely been affordable. I would go on and post and just, when I needed a graphic designer for some t-shirts that I was doing, I just went on and said, who does graphic design? Also Fiverr, if you're at a total loss, Fiverr is it's Fiverr, and it's an app, and you can go and hire graphic designers from across the world to make you stuff. Now it's going to be hit or miss whether you like what they make you, because you're just kind of hiring a stranger on the internet, but you can see their previous designs and you can see what they're up to. For me,
and you can give them guidance.
Yeah. And for me, like, I literally went onto WordSwag, which is a free app where you can put text onto some photos. And I got a free picture of that spiral stained glass window that a lot of people use. And I slapped the repatterning project across it. And that is still my header to this day. It's become just,
it's gorgeous.
It's like, it just is gorgeous. What it is now, right? One day I'll have like a graphic designer do like an actual like real version of it. But it's been 3 years and it still serves me. So.
Yeah, and Fiverr is good for finding like a web developer as well. So like, again, what is it? You said WordPress. I know I use Wix. There's Kartra has like a lot of your email responder things. So if you want to just have a payment gateway to sell, all these platforms kind of do-it-yourself websites. They're pretty cheap to get. And then you could still go to someone on Fiverr and be like, okay, here's my thing, which again, I've done. I did Wix, and then I paid someone a couple $100 to make my Wix website, and altogether, I don't know, $400 or $500. But not the best one in the world, but gets the job done. Again, it also depends on what you want your site to do. Is it going to have information? Is it going to be primarily a blog, or do you just need a shopping cart, so to speak, for someone to purchase things? There's different ways to go about it, but I would use one of those template sites and then get some help or do it yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Co-signing on that one. All right, Heather says, I'm curious about offering coaching educational packages while also staying mindful of building relationship in a trauma-informed capacity. I would like to offer one-off in-person sessions so folks don't feel pressured or coerced, but I also realize it is likely beneficial to do a series of sessions together for us both if it's consensual. I'm also in a position of moving into offering embodiment coaching / sex ed consultations, but let me see. There it is. But feeling hesitant because I'm not able to market as a certified educator yet. Okay, cool. Well, the good news about coaching is that coaching does not require any certifications. Unless you want to say you're a certified coach, in that case, it requires a certification. I have certifications in neurolinguistic programming, timeline therapy, and hypnotherapy. But I don't technically need those to be a coach. You are not legally, you're not practicing anything that requires a legal certification. You just want to not say that you're certified. So do you feel confident as an embodiment coach? Do you know that you have value to offer people? That's going to be more important. Your training is important naturally. But I've seen people with, it's like Chris, for example. Chris' certifications lapsed, but I still trust him as a money coach, but he's not going to go around saying I'm a certified financial planner, right? So that's that question. You want to offer one-off in-person sessions so people don't feel pressured or coerced, but you also realize it's likely beneficial to do a series of sessions together. I'm going to go ahead and say, you're going to offer some one-off sessions for a little while, and then you're going to realize that you're actually not serving people to do these one-off sessions when, you know, ultimately the pattern that I see happen is that, you know, I had clients who were coming to me in a state of panic. Oh my God, Arden, blah, 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 blah. They would use me for essentially self-soothing, right? Essentially like palliative care. And I'd be like, okay, I feel better now. And then they go back and they would repeat their same bullshit over and over again. So it took me a while of doing that before I felt drained. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm only now going to offer one-off sessions for the people who have taken the course up front. If you prove that you were going to take the course and you were going to get that foundation of knowledge, then you can come back for a tune-up whenever you want. If you're not going to do that, then you have to sign up for the four-month program if you want to work with me privately, right? You don't want people to feel pressured or coerced into buying a whole bunch up front, then yeah, it's possible, you know, you can say, okay, you can purchase your first session and then you can decide if you want to purchase the full package. I will do that sometimes for people. If I'm doing one-off sessions, if I'm, you know, in a slow month and I decide to break my own rules and take a client that is maybe like someone I know off of Facebook, and I'm like, okay, well, you don't have to take the course. I'll work with you because I have some availability. I will offer them, I'll be like, okay, you can do your first session. And then if you decide you want to upgrade to the full package, you can pay the difference, right? So it's possible to do that. But you're going to find out eventually that you're just going to get sick of it, basically. And the way that you keep it so that people don't feel coerced into booking with you is you just make as much free material as you can so people can be a full yes to booking with you, because they'll get to know you over your free content or over the free masterclasses that you give, right? You can also give say like one-off workshops like this one that you charge $100 for, and then people get to know your work in the context of that session. And then you're like, okay, if you want to work with me further, here it is, right? Ultimately, it's what you're comfortable with. And it's totally okay if you want to offer those one-off in-person sessions now. I'm just predicting that at some point you're going to get tired of people who only come to you when they have a problem. And it's okay if people only come to you when they have a problem, if they then use that session to solve that problem. And that's why I work with people who have graduated my course, because they're like, oh, I have a problem, I'm going to come back and solve it. What you don't want is someone who has the same problem over and over again, who's coming back to you to feel better, and then goes off and does the same thing and basically like refills their trauma container with all the stuff that they're making a lot of bad decisions around, right? That was when I stopped offering one-off sessions. Is I was working with people and I would clear whatever it was that they were doing, and then they would go back into the same patterns again. And I'm like, why are you back on Tinder? I thought we talked about this. Like, I started feeling used as a coach. I'm like, they're paying me and I feel bad about this, right? But if you don't feel bad, if you don't reach that point of feeling bad, then that's okay. So yeah, that's what I got.
I second all of, yeah, I second all of that. I think that's really, right on the money. I had the same thing. Someone has a financial crisis and then wants to hire me, and I'm like, well, okay, I'm $500 an hour for 1 hour, but did you really solve anything? Like, you feel better because you spoke to me, but now you have your $500 less and you haven't installed all the systems and you don't have it. So that's why you'll see when we did the 6 different tiers, all of mine are monthly. You can't just hire me once, if that's, and I think that's what I'm going to use Patreon for, right? And people can just come ask one question and then go and feel good. But again, it depends, in what you do, you might be able to completely, whatever, cure or solve a problem, get someone over a hurdle in one shot. With money, I generally can't. So that's why I stopped doing that. Again, I started like Arden. I felt bad as being hired. I'm like, I just feel it wasn't, it wasn't in tune with it. So the other thing you can think of doing is like doing your one-off sessions, and then, again, follow your gut and evolve and raise your prices and change your packages as you grow. But one way to do it is have a discount for the packages. So you have your one-off session, but if you get, if you book the 3 months, which is what most of my clients need to really get to the next level or solve this issue, they're 20% off or whatever have you. And if you get a whole year, it's 40% off or whatever, things of that sort. This way, again, it's not a high pressure. You're saying this is there for you. You can opt in or you can opt out.
Yeah, the thing about making things accessible is we want our work to be accessible, right? That's one of my values, and that's why I do make, a lot of free content, or I have in the past, right? Now I share it out, it's from years ago, right? But there's still a whole bunch of free content out there. And like I said, you can take my course for $100 a month, like as little as $100 a month for 10 months. If you apply for the scholarship and you wait around, right? That's another way that I make my coaching accessible. Okay, you have to wait for the next repatterning project to happen. It only happens every 6 months, but you join that, you can join it a scholarship, and then you can get those one-off sessions, and that's accessible for you. But it does mean that you have to wait, and it does mean you have to take that course up front if that's really what you want, right? So I charge essentially not by, I charge people by like the amount of effort they're willing to put in versus the amount of handholding they need. And for someone to say, well, I want a 1 session with you and I want it right now, that's some entitlement right there, right? At least as far as I'm concerned, I think it is. If you need my work that badly and you can't afford it, you can wait 6 months, you can take the course for $100 a month, and then you can get a session, you can buy that one-off session at that point, right? If you can afford to pay more, I do have an option for rich people who want that one-off session, who don't want to take the course, right? If you don't want to wait around, you don't want to take the course, then it is $1,200 for a half-day deep dive. I named that rate because I was like, all right, if someone says to me, Arden, I really think I just have this one problem and you can solve it in a single session. Oh, really? If it's that important to you and you really think that I can solve your problem in just one session, this whole big thing that you're coming to me with, and that's the only time that we have to dive in, all right, then we're doing a 2 to 3 hour chunk of time in the afternoon, and we are doing a deep dive on this, and it is $1,200 because I am only focusing on this once, which means it's going to take a lot of my focus if you expect me to solve this by the time that we're done, right? And that's essentially what I'm saying to people, is that I'm like, if you really think I can solve your problem in one go, then it's worth $1,200 to you, I think, as Chris was saying, like, it gets to a point where it's actually generous not to take people's money for one-off sessions.
Yeah.
Because it's actually not helping them solve the deep-rooted problem, and you're essentially just putting band-aids on them again and again. I could have been a timeline therapist at age 27. I wasn't. And, I think the reason I didn't do that is because I actually had not figured out the whole system of the repatterning project that helped me internalize what it is that I'm working with. And even now, I will sometimes offer one-off timeline therapy sessions to sometimes like my friends on the internet that I see who have a very specific problem that they're talking about. And I'll be like, for example, like today, we're talking about wealth problems. I'm like, all right, you're already named this problem. You have one specific problem. I can do one session for you, and I can probably shift a lot around this one problem, right? But if I'm doing that for people over and over and over again, I'm just giving them a fish instead of teaching them how to fish. And I want us to have the foundation of that language that the repatterning project is, so they can see what we're actually doing. It's the difference between, you just take your car to me when it needs a tune-up versus I tell you how your engine works, And if you just want to be a mechanic, then that's great, right? Or if you just want to be like the equivalent of a mechanic, that's fine. But again, when it comes to people's like habits and choices and everything, it's like, if your car is always breaking down, yeah, you can keep going to the mechanic shop, but maybe you actually need to learn how to like work on your car. And for me, that was what was more rewarding. Sydney says, do you have any suggestions on how to choose what to do next? Don't know what to be creating content into. There's so much information. Do I create an online course and offer continuing ed credits first, or a book deal first? Well, if you can get a book deal, that would be great, but I would probably not go with book deal first, because you're going to get a better book deal when your work is more well-known and you have more of an audience to point to. Should I build a bigger platform first and try to position myself as an expert on a larger scale, or create things to sell? Because I do nervous system work, EMDR and trauma therapy. I have chronic pain content, anxiety content, trauma content. I have trauma informed and health at every size related wellness content, yoga creators who want to. I just feel like there are too many things to think about and I get lost and overwhelmed. I'm not a super visual person, so the admin and visual component takes so much time. Sometimes it's just like, where do I put my energy? Okay, so what you want to start doing, Sydney, is thinking about what are your 6 offers, right? What are those 6 offers? And notice in those 6 offers, like even with me and with Chris and with the music production and the photographer examples, they're all centered around the same thing. So it sounds actually like here you have chronic pain content, you have anxiety content, trauma content, you have health at every size content, wellness content, yoga teachers and creatives, right? I think you need to decide what it is that you most love doing. This doesn't mean that you can't also branch out in the future, but you want to really focus on what your core offer is first, right? This is about taking the thing that you love, and it's okay to love a lot of things, right? But this is about you want to be known for one thing. You don't want to start off as a jack of all trades. You want to start off specializing in something, and then you can branch out. So how do you know which one to pick? You pick whichever is your favorite and whichever seems like it is going to start getting you the most income coming in, right? You can be ready with, if you have like rich friends or a big list, you can be ready with that content that is that high value, like that high ticket content, right? And you can pitch to a couple people and you can start bringing in money that way, right? But if you don't have a bunch of rich friends to pitch, you might want to start with building your audience, right? You're going to want to build your audience before you buy into, you start working on your book, right? Unless you have this idea that your book is going to build you your audience, but I can save you a click with that, because chances are you will write your book and then you will put it out there, and then your publisher will leave you hanging high and dry, and you'll think, I don't understand. I have a book on the shelf at Barnes and Noble. Why am I not famous yet? If you're anything like me. So having a book doesn't immediately get you a platform.
Like, one question I have about that is like, so right now I have more referrals than I know what to do with.
Yeah.
Right. So there's this kind of like back and forth between like, I'm like, if I like send out a bunch more guest blogs, or like do a bunch more podcasts, or like even like I have this press list, if I pitch the press list, then at some point I'm going to have all these emails and like nothing so I feel like I'm in this weird like stuck space with it, where I'm like, I don't know what to sell people.
That's right. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
You're the one with the overflowing inbox. That's right. Yes. I remember your comment from earlier. Yeah. So I think this is a great time for a group program, because you have, you can, in fact, I would shoot an email to your list like this week, and I would just say, hey, everybody, my wait list has been overflowing. I'm so sorry if I haven't gotten back to you. But I'm going to be teaching a workshop for, this coming, whenever, on some tools about how to, you're going to pick your thing of what's most popular. What are most people writing to you about, right? I'm going to teach a workshop next month, on, ways of dealing with your PTSD responses, right? Like life after trauma or whatever. That's something that, that's something that seems to be pretty popular, and it seems to be something like anxiety and trauma, right? Living with that, like life after trauma. And I would get that to be about, dealing with anxiety and, dealing with PTSD. And you could make that something like a 6-week container, and you could price that at about like, somewhere like $1,000 to $2,000. You're going to get people who are on your wait list who want to work with you, who are like, oh yeah, I'll sign up for that right away if it means I don't have to wait. Or you could make it a 1-day workshop, and you could charge somewhere around like 100 for it, like I did today. And you probably get a bunch of people, you get more people signing up for that because it's a lower barrier to entry, but you'd be making more money on the longer course, right? So it's really like, what are you feeling in your body like you're ready to put forward? If you're like, I don't know if I'm ready to teach a 6-week container yet, then, do the 1-day workshop. But then you get that 1-day workshop and you'd be like, hey guys, if this is something that interests you, I'm going to be teaching a 6-week container about this, another month or 2 from now, while I, in the meantime, like, get all my material together and make sure that I have 6 weeks worth of content, right? You can get someone in and then you can upsell them from there. So yeah, I think whatever you're doing, if you have an overflowing inbox right now, I would make use of that wait list, and I would go ahead and put those people into a group container. So you can access working with me right now, but it's going to be in a group.
One worry that I have, and maybe this is just like coming from a therapy background, because I feel like I know a lot of coaches that do this and do it totally well. But I feel like one big fear I have around it is if I really would need to screen people super well because there are a lot of people who have relational trauma in ways that can make them like really disruptive to a group, or maybe that it wouldn't even be safe for me to work with them in a group. So that's my one kind of like worry, is sometimes when I think about niching around trauma or like branding around trauma, as opposed to just like nervous system health or like true wellness, like what does wellness look like? That's slow and about relational thriving, and not just about like living forever, but actually about like meaningful engagement as opposed to like optimal performance, right? Like I feel like that's sort of the overarching like umbrella of my brand. And that wellness feels a little bit safer. And I just, sometimes I hesitate to like scale something where with trauma, it's like so much of what is important to be able to do is like titrate and like not move too fast and like not go bigger. Like, I don't know. Does that make sense? You know what I mean by that? I feel like it's a little.
Absolutely. Yeah. First of all, it is doable. It is doable to have a container like that and to set up boundaries for it. And you just let people know, what is appropriate and what is, but I've had containers, the repatterning project specifically, where I've had people in the group there, they've been appropriate about it. Cause again, if it's a longer program, like a 6-week program, you're going to get these people on the phone, you're going to be screening them. And I guarantee the people who are too stuck in their trauma to show up responsibly to a container are going to weed themselves out on the phone call very easily. They're not even going to get to the point where they're paying you, because they're going to be talking and talking and talking and not slowing down. And you're going to say, okay, well, this has been a great conversation. Let me know if you need any more help, right? That's how that's generally going to go. You're going to hear on the phone whether they're capable of having a conversation in a way like about their trauma or about that, whatever is coming up for them, in a way that feels, grounded. Then you're going to set boundaries for the container. But I have had containers where people have discussed like their like really horrifying degrees of trauma, like really, really, stuff but because they came to this container and they were like, they understood the boundaries of the container. They were like, is it okay with everyone if I share something that is part of my childhood trauma, but it's pretty horrific? And everyone in the call was like, yeah, we're here for you. And they shared and they were like, oh, okay, I shared that. Now it's off my chest. Thank you. So there are ways of setting up guardrails. But yeah, your connection call is going to help you with that. Your boundaries for the container are going to help with that. Also, if you would prefer to have a brand be around wellness, that's great. You don't have to do something that's about trauma specifically. If you'd rather, if working with the wellness brand lights you up more, I would say go for that, just because it lights you up more and you're already feeling more confident about it. The pitfall I'm going to say is that something I learned in coaching is, if you have a headache, or you have like, what are you going to reach for? You're going to reach for a bottle that says aspirin. You're not going to reach for a bottle that just says medicine on it, right? So the more specific you can get about the coaching you're doing, because there's a whole industry around wellness, right? So you want to be solving some more specific problems. having a container that is just about wellness. It's possible, like maybe because there's people who follow you, you've been creating really great content for a long time. There might be people who are ready to sign up with you right away because they know the content that you've been creating. In general, wellness is a pretty broad stroke. So that's why you just want to make sure you're like narrowing in on what problem are you solving for people. Make it more about a specific thing as much as you
Do you
can.
have thoughts on like how to say nervous system health? Because I feel like that's the problem. You know what I mean? Like it's like overall nervous system health, but I don't necessarily, but I think most people don't understand what that, like if you're in that world, you're like, oh, I totally understand what she does and how it relates to chronic pain and trauma and anxiety. But if you don't understand the brain and the body, sometimes I'm like, what is that?
Right. Yeah, I would also advise don't go for the nervous system health one, because again, it's going to be professionals who are going to understand that language. I would go into your inbox and I would start reading through those emails and noticing the common denominators in the language that people are expressing their problems to you. And if people are saying trauma and anxiety, I would do that. If people are saying I'm coming to you for wellness coaching, I would do that. I would do whatever feels like it's the most prevalent. And by using those buzzwords, then you're going to get all those people who wrote to you about their problems. And they're like, oh, she's teaching a class on the exact thing that I just wrote to her about. Of course, I want to attend that. Yeah. Chris, do you have anything else on that one?
That's the way. Yeah, no, I mean, you nailed it. The only thing I would add is, Sydney, I like to go through, say, monthly and then focus on a different section. So maybe this type of trauma 1 month, build that, next month, build that, and then you'll go through all of them at some point. But, take a bite that you can and do everything that Arden said for one relatively narrow band, and to some extent you may be able to record it or at least transcribe it, again if it's trauma, again depending on disclosures and things. But then now you can turn that into a video training course that you can then just sell to someone for even a lower ticket, and now that's something on the shelf that you have as a product, and you just built out your product list, and you can have a library of those things for people. So, and then again, it's a great way for them to get some guidance from you. And if they like that, then they can sign up for, your one-on-one coaching at your higher rates and get counseling and things of that sort.
Yeah. And also, keep in mind that if you are just teaching something like a 1-day workshop, like something that is maybe modeled after the scale of the workshop that Chris and I are teaching today, you're not going to have people bringing, like you might have a section for Q&A, but you're likely not going to have, like, you are not creating the container for people to like unload all their trauma, right? You are teaching a workshop on here's some techniques for how to manage your trauma responses or whatever your curriculum is going to be. You know that better than I do. But you're not, for a 1-day workshop, like your instincts are spot on that you're like, I don't want to open that whole can of worms, for $100 workshop, you shouldn't have to, right? That's more about, I'm going to pass to you some information that's going to be useful to you that you can apply, but I'm not opening up that whole can of worms myself. You can sign up for my one-on-one sessions. And now I've raised my rates, right? Now I've raised my rates because I'm feeling drained. So, and exactly as Chris said too, because I also noticed your comment about wanting to be able to earn passive income, putting those classes up also on a site to be able to download. I'm going to put this class up on my site. It's going to be the same. It's going to be $100 because whether someone was here live or whether they, are only watching the replay, I find the information to be just as valuable either way. So, yeah. Okay, cool. Question from Simon. I have a question regarding applying the clear offer wisdom when, for example, making a guest appearance on someone's podcast or doing a live hangout. If I were discussing a book I've published and there's an online course I've created that relates to that book, how much detail would you recommend providing regarding other related things I'm available for, especially if there's focus on me within someone else's container, like their podcast? I'm going to go ahead and field this one to Chris too, because Chris just modeled this for everybody today.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So do what I did. Right. I think having a very clear and getting an idea of the audience you're speaking to, and then having a good out of your say 6 offers and options, what's the best one, right? With based off of Arden's container course today, I thought the best way is, hey, if you want to know general information about me and finance and get a taste of how I do things, here's a free event. And I thought that was the best. I could have said, hey, you guys are all starting businesses. You're probably going to need a CFO at some point. This is my rate for that. This is my clear offer on being a CFO. I figured that if you're starting a business, you probably don't need a CFO for $3,500 a month just yet. That's probably not the right way to go. Let me give you some basics on finances so that your personal money is organized and tight, and you have more money to invest and apply to your business. So I will cover that on Saturday. And so essentially just that, pick one of your offerings that you think is going to be most relatable to most of the audience, and give them a way to reach out to you for more and ask you more questions. And I think that's the best way, and let them know, hey, this is relevant to you guys because X, Y, and Z, which is just what I did. Next Saturday is relevant to everyone because it keeps your own financial house in order, and it will help you know how to budget so you can invest in your business, exactly how much you should invest in your business so you can make more money and improve your lifestyle. So that's how it applies to anyone looking to, start a business. So yeah, I would do it just like that. And then also asking the host, right? So again, I spoke to Arden beforehand. It was like, hey, who are we doing? What's the topic? And sometimes your host will guide you. It's like, well, most of my audience like these things, or most of my audience are made up of, working class people. Most of my audience are, single moms or whatever have you. They may be able to give you some of that flavor and help guide you to that. But that's what you want to look for. Just find one of your offers that you think is most relatable to the most of the audience.
Thank you.
Totally. Yep. I'm going to co-sign all of that. I think you covered all of it. Dan has a question for Chris mainly, but of course, open to any input from Arden. How did you come to know that your line of work is something you really love to do in the way that, for example, an artist loves to create art? I actually am a financial controller, accountant, and bookkeeper myself, who has for the longest time been unsure as to whether this is really the right quote unquote path for me right now. I know that I'm really good at it, and there are aspects to it that I really do enjoy, but I also feel like some deep part of me is not getting fulfilled in this line of work. I've yet to get 100% clear on what that is. For the past decade of being involved in some way in the personal spiritual growth world, and deep on my own healing path, I've consistently wondered if I'd be happier being a coach or healer. I even tried, I'm like, no. But I'm kidding. I even tried to start a coaching business back in 2015 and failed miserably. All that stuff Arden was saying about the coaching industry and its manipulative behaviors hit really deep for me. Continued. I want to see what the rest of Dan's question. All of this before I committed even deeper to my own healing path and dabbling in providing healing sessions for others based on what I've learned along the way and through prior coaching training. However, I never felt a real deep commitment to that kind of path either. And so for the past few years, I've treated my accounting as my bread and butter business for the time being, while I figure out what feels really in alignment for me in terms of career. I think this parallels deeply with being a trans ethnically adopted person, but that's a whole can of worms. I get this is a long way of asking for a reflection as well as reference experiences from others to help myself or get clear on what that thing is I really want to do that I feel super energized and excited about making a living out of it in an ethical and sustainable way. I think that is a great question for Chris.
It's a beautiful question. I mean, it's just a great question. I mean, and you're very obviously in tune with yourself. I think I'd always advise maintaining your bread and butter and making it, finding pleasure in what you do and see how you benefit the world and people around you using your skill set and your career, because that bread and butter is going to give you that stability and that, that space to then flourish more and evolve yourself. And again, with all my clients, I always recommend doing that. The whole, it's kind of a cliche, but like millionaires have 7 streams of income. So you want to have that base one so that you can create something new and then create something new and then create a new business. So I would say, keep doing what you're doing. It may be worth considering doing it for a different company. You might find, being a financial controller for, say, I don't know what kind of company you work for now, but like a wellness company, or maybe a company that is doing more spiritual products. So now you're in that world of,
That's
something
exactly what
that's,
I do, actually.
Oh, okay. So you don't need me. Beautiful, right? So again, I think that's great. And so one, I'm happy for you because it seems like you're in a good place. So I would use that base. I mean, this is maybe a more energetic thing on an ardent sphere, but don't rush yourself, but experiment. And as a if you were my financial planning client, I would have you put some money aside every month and like commit to spending that on experimenting, right? So maybe it's taking a trip or taking a course in something else, right? And then every month stretching. It's like, hey, let's see how this feels. And sort of exploring more potential options as a student. And then maybe you'll get into it and then dive deeper. And then having a portion of your budget to allow you to have that growth and exploration, and evolve. But you seem to be in tune with what you want and what makes you happy. I would just say, don't feel in a rush. But again, it's a steady progress, and make sure you feed it. It's like watering a plant. Water it, but don't overwater it. It'll grow. Just you got to give it some time too.
Yeah, and the one thing that I would just add to that is, what stood out to me most, Dan, was your question about, you're like, oh, well, should I be a coach or a healer instead? And I was like, I mean, it was funny that I was immediately like, no, don't do that. But it's not really what I meant. But what I do mean by that is that, like, people need healing in their money. Like, like Chris will tell you this, right? Like, people really need healing in their money. So if you already have a skill set around money, you can also transition into doing that for people in a way. Like, you don't have to go and become Reiki certified in order to work with people in that manner. You don't have to be a healer to be a healer, right? If there's financial knowledge that you have, that again, you could be helping that everyday person with, exactly like Chris is doing. Chris was like, oh yeah, I don't want to work in the financial sector of all these like big investment banker people anymore who are just making a whole bunch of money on, math formulas and not really thinking about it. I want to help people to like afford their homes. I want to make a difference. That's probably also something that you could do. You could go into that sphere using the skill sets that you already have, but making it applicable to, to people who need it. I'm going to tell a story too. This is one that Adam Lyons tells. This story is actually from the bonus content that he gave in the interview he gave to the Repatterning Project. So this is a story from that module. Adam talked about, maybe you know this one, Chris. This is about the guy who cleaned cars. Do you know the car cleaning guy story?
I don't know.
Okay, cool. This will be fun. So Adam Lyons, essentially one of the services he offers people is he will do a consultation with you, and it's a bunch of money, but he will give you coaching on how to set up your business. He'll, based on the skill sets that you already have. If you've been working for an employer, or if you've been doing something that you're like, I don't really love this, but I don't know what to do, Adam will help you figure out a business model for how to do what you do independently, and be able to set your own rates and hours, and to be financially independent regarding that. And there was this man who came to Adam who had saved up a lot of money, because Adam, his rates are fairly high, and he had saved up a whole bunch of money, and came to him and was like, yeah, I my job is I work for Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and my job is I clean cars. And Adam was like, wow, you must have really worked a lot of hours to save up all this money. And the first thing he did was like, first of all, I'm not going to take all of that. I don't need all of it. I'm going to only have, like, we're only going to spend an hour of time. I'm going to take this much of your money because you don't need, I'm going to give you what you need in a small amount of time. I can already tell you how to do this. And he says, all right, so you've been cleaning cars. That's what you do at your job. And he's like, yeah. He's like, all right, my boss expects me to clean about 2 cars per hour. So people return the rental cars and I have to clean them, for $2 for 2 cars per hour for what he was making something like, I think he was making like
$10 an hour.
Something crazy like that.
Minimum wage-ish.
15, let's say it was
Yeah.
15, right? We'll just say it was 15, which is
Sure.
like, what we're hoping the minimum wage in this country will go up to. So let's say he's making $15 an hour. So that makes, he makes $7.50 per car that he cleans, right? So Adam immediately says, hey, I'm a millionaire and I want to have my car cleaned. And I normally take it. I have to take it somewhere out of my way. I have to drop it off there. I have to wait for it to be done. It normally takes 2 to 3 hours. You're telling me you could clean my car in a half an hour? The guy's like, yeah. He goes, all right, here's your plan. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to say, here's my car cleaning business. I will come to your house. I will clean your car. It will only take 30 minutes. Here's the deal. In order to have this service, it has to be a subscription. You're going to be paying $100 a month and you commit to getting your car cleaned once a month. And immediately that's cheaper than most services that do a full car cleaning, and it takes a lot less time and you don't have to get there. So basically this gentleman started a business where he said, all right, for $100 a month, I will come and I'll clean your car once a month, because Adam's like, hell, I should probably have my car clean like once a month anyway. And if it's this cheap and you're going to come to my house, that motivates me to do it. So sure enough, it gets to a point where this guy has so many clients for cleaning their cars for $100 a month that he takes on another employee. And he's like, all right, now I'm going to take a cut out of this, but you're going to do this because these are my clients and I'm finding you these referrals. Here's how we're going to go and do this going forward, right? So essentially, no matter what skill you have, there are people who need the thing that you do. So you can do that for people in that like heart-centered, connected kind of way. Even if you are dealing with money, right, which you're feeling like as a financial controller, like Dan, you were saying, you're feeling a little like you're like, I think I might want to do this, but I'm not feeling really inspired by it. I really want to help people. I want to be a healer. I really believe that the world needs more people who are like healers in their money, right? Healing people's money, healing people's beliefs around money, et cetera, et cetera. So no matter, so you can have that same kind of heart-centered, like, I want to connect with people. I want to help people on a daily basis and I want to help people heal. But if you already know more about money than they do, chances are you can offer a service that's incredibly valuable to them with your knowledge of finances and have that coach or healer business, but using the thing that you're already good at, not having to go through a whole new certification, learning Reiki or learning all the chakras and stuff like that, and feeling like you're just competing in this sea of all these people who are coaches going to all these coaching events, and I'm a third eye chakra goddess activation coach, and all the different kinds of I coach coaches to coach coaches to coach coaches to guide coaches to intuitively find their best coach, like all of those kind of things. If you already have something you're good at, you can turn that into a coaching business or a healer business, but it's based on the thing that you're already great at holding space for people for. So I don't know exactly what a financial controller is, but that's probably something Chris knows that I don't. But whatever it is, I guarantee you have the ability to help people one-on-one with the things that you already know.
Yep. 100%.
Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I hope that was a good answer to your question. So I was scrolling through the rest of the comments and I didn't see any. I saw some lovely comments coming in, but I didn't see any more questions. So I think we're almost like a full hour over, but as I said, I tend to under promise and over deliver. So here we go. Thank you guys all for your patience today. Are there any last questions for either me or Chris coming in? Oh, wait, just a minute. And in that minute, I'll just make our pitches again. I will remind you that next Saturday is Chris's free masterclass. Go and join that. See what he is all about, what he has to teach you when he is leading his own, like in his element and feeling his flow and doing his, teaching from his own material. I benefited from that as well, hiring him as a money coach when I was getting my finances sorted, and it's absolutely worth it. So go ahead and do that. Check out also his monthly programs that you can sign up for. And for me, I have the 2 one-time offers. They're each The same price point. It's going to be a 75-minute session. It's going to be $200, which is a 20% discount off of the $250 price that it normally is. And we are either going to build and craft your first marketing post for your offer, or we can do some timeline therapy where we find out why you're having resistance to the idea of accepting money or accepting responsibility and providing services. Either of those, you can book either of those sessions with me or both. Up through the end of June. You just have to book and use the session by end of June. In July, I will be going into full repatterning project mode. Again, you've heard about the repatterning project. So if you want to join that, we will be beginning, I think the start date is July 17th, but it's definitely mid-July. So I'm sure you will be hearing that. If you stay tuned to my post, you'll be hearing a lot about all of that enrollment when I'm opening up for that. That's what I got ahead of me. Chris, anything else you want to add?
No, thanks so much. This was so much fun. I do this every weekend.
Oh my God, me too, right? This is a blast. I had a great time. Well, I'm like, what took me so long, right? But I had to get to that point where I was like, I'm having a dry month. I need some money. What am I going to do? I'll do what everyone else does. I'll teach a class about how to make some money. And it turns out I actually know what I'm talking about. So
Exactly.
I had to get pushed
would,
at that point first.
and I know I stress the timeline therapy. It's so helpful. I highly recommend you take Arden up on that. And then also the crafting your offer and message. You know, as you've seen, she does an amazing job of that. And very early on, when I was moving to start coaching, individual people without my licenses, Arden was actually one of my very first clients and gave me a lot of confidence about it. So I want to just publicly say thanks a million, because I wouldn't be where I am as a coach without you. And so you guys are all in the right place. I mean, like, I'm doing pretty good with it. And again, Arden was one of my very first clients after I got rid of my licenses and started going a slightly different way. And, not being able to, like, I have these 401ks to say, would you like some? And a little bit more, focus on what I think really will change people's lives. So she had faith in me early on and helped me build that and learn how to get that phraseology and things like that, which has helped me immensely so I think we started like 2-3 years ago. So want to say publicly thank you to you, and I would strongly recommend you take her up on that offer, because it's very, very helpful, especially when you're just getting your sea legs. It's really nice. It's really nice.
Well, same right back at you. And I'm so grateful to have been able to have that opportunity to be your guinea pig, because I feel like I got this immense amount of value, and I got to do it for like what was it, like $100 a month or something like that. It was so, oh my God, it was so cheap.
I've raised my rates a bit. But thank you for letting me give you that knowledge. That's that thing, being able to accept it and it was a mutually beneficial. So that's what it's all about. That's all it's all about, guys.
And now you are all seeing that introductory sea legs rate in action. You know that it works.
Yep.
And in a couple of years, you will be super confident and you'll be charging that super high ticket rate. Only question will be getting a recording via email. Yes. In fact, that's what I'm going to do as soon as I sign off and it all downloads. I'm going to be sending that email out. I promised everyone within 48 hours of the class, but I'm pretty sure I'll have it out tonight. So, all right, cool. Well, with that, thank you guys so much. Thank you all for being patient and
thank you.
Staying later. And I hope this was helpful. Tell all your friends, because this recording will be available on my website later on. Even if it's not on the website up yet, you can have people reach out to me and I'll just send them the recording, because again, my web designer is good and cheap and not fast. So thank you guys all so much. Happy Saturday. Have a wonderful weekend.
Ciao, guys.
I'll see you soon.
Bye. Thanks a lot.